Okay, cool. Like, go
Sounds
to the
fun, but
snow.
no, yeah, no,
Gotta be
definitely.
careful.
No, that's which is. I mean, thank you for coming on. Like first of
I
all,
appreciate it.
just for coming. We were trying to do it for a
Couple
while.
months, yeah, like the beginning, it was
Yeah,
like I think
yeah,
we
yeah,
finally
yeah.
talked at like the very beginning. It was like, oh, it's only gonna be like what, like 6 weeks or whatever. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, cool, we could do it like in a month.
Yeah. So how's it been treating you? How's this quarantine going? How's it?
Oh man, it's been interesting. So like in the beginning, I was working my day job at a restaurant,
Hmm.
and then I wasn't because my boss was kind of like the health. What do you call it? Not the health auditors. The I guess like health clerks. They were changing the things every day, like have a mask, have gloves, and
Mm,
she was more than willing to accommodate, but she was
yeah.
starting to feel overwhelmed by like what you were not allowed or
Too many
had to do.
rules.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or just
yeah,
the changing so
yeah.
quickly because she didn't want to make us sick or customers sick. She was like, screw it, and she closed. And then so like maybe 6 or 7 weeks later, she was like, okay, we're gonna reopen for takeout. It's gonna be cool. And on the second day, we had a fire.
Oh
Everyone's
shit.
fine. Everyone's fine. But we
Well,
had
that's good.
we
Yeah.
had a really bad fire that like took down like the back part of our building.
Oh
So
wow.
then it was like, I'm just gonna be on the unemployment, but it's like a weird thing because normally I have a day job and I'm also like an artist and a promoter. There's like a
Okay.
lot you can
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
do,
You could do. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then now it's kind of like, well, I'm not doing my day job, which is kind of a nice like break in a way,
Yeah, a little vacation
a
from
little
away.
bit,
A
but
little
then because
vacation.
you can't do the other like,
Yeah, but it's kind of strange because you can't just say, "Well, I'm gonna go
yeah,
do a hobby," because you
yeah.
can't really get into the hobby stores, or you can't.
It's been a time, but there's been
Yeah.
all these free classes, like all these edx.org is cool. I took all these like free classes. I'm trying to learn Spanish right now because
Oh
I'm
wow,
trying to learn since I
nice,
was like
nice.
15, and so I was like, I'm
How's
a
that
little.
going?
It's going okay. Babel is some shit though because it's like it's not like this is San Jose, so most people I know who speak Spanish are like Mexican or Salvadorian or Honduran,
Hmm.
but mostly Mexican. But then the Babel Spanish is like the what do you call it, Castilian Spanish, so the accent is different.
Okay. So
So I find that a little confusing.
when you're learning it, is it like proper Spanish? Because I know, like, say
Yeah,
high
like
school Spanish is like bolígrafo
proper.
for pin, which is
Yeah,
kind of like it's kind of misleading because it's not how. Because you're gonna say that to a regular, I mean, to like a Mexican, and they're like, I don't
yeah.
know what that means.
Also, it's weird because like, when I worked on the east side, a lot of the girls I work with, they were from like Mexico or Salvador. So while I
Hmm.
don't speak it, I understand like a little bit. So then that tripped me out. Like when they make you, that will be like, record it and say it, and then it keeps telling you it's wrong. I was like, it's San Jose, it's not because
It's true though.
the accents are different. But I mean, that's true of like most languages.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
like it, but then I was kind of like, I'm starting to understand more, but the speaking is still like a thing because the accents are so like even
So
like
yeah, you catch
the
little.
double L sound is very different in the proper Spanish
Yes,
and the
they're rolling
Mexican
the
Spanish.
R's, and yeah, or
They
even
roll
just
them
words in
different.
general. Because I think there's some words that like Nicaraguenses like to say
Hmm.
that are normally in, say, Mexican language would be somewhat disturbing. I forget exactly what words, but in Nicaraguenses, like it's like saying friend or something.
Hmm.
Like it's
Have
totally
their own
different.
like
Yeah, yeah,
version,
yeah. So I get what you're saying. So it's gonna be,
but it's cool. But it
but
was
it's a
on
good trait.
sale.
Yeah, it's a good on sale. Oh wow, a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. That's probably the good thing that came out of this whole pandemic, right?
Yes.
That a
There's
lot of stuff came
skills.
out. If you're willing to put time to improve yourself, this is probably one of the better times to do so. Yeah, because I
Exactly.
mean, give the fact that you can't really go out to places. I
Right.
mean, you want to go for a hike, you really couldn't do it. There's
Right.
times where you couldn't do it, but for the most part, if you wanted to integrate yourself with the social media,
Yeah, that's true. I see a lot of
viral
artists going
stuff,
hard,
yeah. So that
entrepreneurs going
started
hard.
going in the free classes now, and I think that's gonna
Yeah.
help. I think that's gonna help.
I think it's a good time. It's a weird time because it's like you said. It's like if you have the threshold for self improvement, where some people that have like the anxiety and depression, it's hit or miss
Yeah, right.
depending on where
Yeah,
you're at.
yeah.
So
Yeah, because there's people who are probably this is probably the worst time for them.
right,
Because that's I think that's what increased, right? Was like suicides and stuff like that. I think that
suicide, like social anxiety.
yeah,
Oh
divorces.
man, because you locked in the house with somebody, you'd be like, actually,
Like
just kidding.
which is kind of good
Kind of
too,
hate
though,
your
right?
life,
Because I mean, now it keeps you from like maybe those people having kids, because some people,
right?
and making
Or
it
making kids
worse,
happy by
or yeah, yeah, hey, you
amicably
never know.
separating,
Yeah, a
right?
mutual
Like it's just not
separation.
working out.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
believe
it.
that. And then you get the sad part where even like child abuse went up.
Oh man, and domestic violence,
Yeah, because
unfortunately,
a lot of times that's the only time they get away, school or
school, work,
work or anything
right?
like that, and now
Yeah.
that's going down. And then then you get the nice part just to get away, and then with the whole extra $600 for unemployment.
I've been appreciating that.
Oh, you
Right.
got yeah.
I've been
See,
getting it, so I
yeah,
was
it's
like,
good.
it's no
See,
joke. I appreciate it.
no, it
So
helps. It really, really, really
it
does.
does.
What do you
It
think about a
does.
universal income? Now that have you heard about that?
Yeah, Andrew Yang was my guy. So
There you
yes,
go. There you
Yang
go.
Yang.
There you go.
I think it's kind of a trip. Is like so he didn't even make it for a Democratic nomination. I was a huge fan and advocate of Andrew
Me
Yang.
too.
So I donated like every time I could donate like 20, 10, 20, $25. I was studying donating for like that whole kind of like year plus he was on
Hmm.
the journey. He didn't even get the nomination. He's still been out here.
And he's still
pushing
promoted.
for universal basic income. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy. I was actually thinking about it earlier. I was reading about him online. It's funny you brought him up. And I was like, everything he said, I think was so like underappreciated.
Yeah, really underappreciated.
But now with the pandemic, I think people are like, we fucked up so bad that we didn't lift him up enough to get the nomination, because it's like he was talking about all the things we're talking about now: universal health care. People lost their health care, they lost their job. People are out of work because of COVID.
The essential automated stuff. I mean, you look. It's kind of crazy though, right? Like you see what actually runs America, right? What it's the essential workers, it's grocery stores people, it's the first responders, doctors, and stuff.
Yeah,
I think it kind of put a realization of what's really important.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Andrew Yang, he's been saying it from the beginning, even with the cops. He's been saying the cops should be getting trained better.
Yep.
They should be
mental health care.
Yeah, everything they've been talking about like all together, and now you see it, it's like shit. It's already too late now.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird because you would think like Joe Biden or something would throw him in there.
Oh, he's pretty young.
Something.
I think he'll run again.
I think he'll run again. If not for president, I think mayor or something. I don't think he's going to give up.
Just give him a platform. Yeah, but I love these ideas. I love them.
I do too.
I love that he wasn't a politician. I love that
Exactly.
he's a smart businessman and he's willing to think outside of the box instead of your normal.
And he was giving like facts.
Yeah.
Because he was on like a lot of interviews for a lot of different platforms, from like the Breakfast Club to CNN to even Fox
Joe
News.
Rogans and
right.
Yeah,
kind of like more
so
conservative, but it would just be like, hey, we're here. He could come on your show. He would just give you like facts.
The spill, which I like too, because he wasn't scared to go on to oppositions.
Exactly.
You know, so if you get, that's what you don't want. You don't want to just stay in a think tank where, oh, this is the only, my people listen to me, so I'm going to stay. That's not what you want to do. You want to spread the word to people that are not.
He took a lot of risks.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
But considering that he is not a politician and he had zero corporate sponsors, all people like you and me that were like, I fuck with you. And we were just giving like not even big amounts of money. I think they said the average donation for like a Yang supporter was like
$20 or something.
25
like
or 30 bucks. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But we were like, I know I donated consistently and I don't regret like giving any money, because even though he didn't get it, he's still out here talking about.
He's still doing,
He's still going for it, and we need it.
And his name is still being brought up to this point. I was more on the Tulsi Gabbard bandwagon. I was more on that. I actually did donate a little bit to her.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, I get why people don't want to mess with both of them. It's not
for sure
because they're not politicians. People don't feel like they're gonna win, so they feel like they're wasting their vote, and this and that. But I don't know. I think even Andrew Yang, I think he would have been a good candidate to come as a third party.
Right.
That would have been, I think, would have been good. Maybe bringing Tulsi or Bernie in there.
I'm just tripped out that we had all these people that were like so good running for the Democratic ticket. It was like there was Bernie Sanders, who I think is dope. There was Warren, who I think is dope. There was Booker, who was dope. Andrew Yang was my guy. Tulsi, but it was like there was people that were like really strong, that were like just great ideas that could have been a great combination of like president and VP or somewhere on the cabinet.
So just have them.
Just to have them, all with the shit, and then it was like we got motherfucking Biden. And I get it because people know him.
Fucking creepy Joe.
He's like the safe, but it's like which white rapist are you going to vote for president right now?
That's what I don't understand.
We had all these people that were great, like women and progressive and people of color, and we got this motherfucker right here. I was like, really, like
because I know you're more on the progressive liberal side, right? Yeah, I mean that's I'm more of an independent. I like to be more.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Totally right. So then, but I like it because some people on that side of the fence, they're more like, oh, who cares? Like it's like you're kind of picking two evils. Same thing happened with Hillary Clinton and like say the Trump thing. Like I can't believe out of 352 million people in the country, this is what we have.
Right.
Like this is what we're
dealing
with.
We got.
Yeah. Like and. Yeah. It's kind of sad that that's not what we're kind of up in the uproar about. Like, it's. I mean, although I am glad with this whole movement that's going on.
I agree
with the reform,
right?
With the system reform,
major system reform.
It sucks that it has to do with racially based.
Right. That's
the part that it's kind of hard to decipher because you're always gonna get. I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and then they've been more. It's 50-50. Some of it like I'm strictly for it. Some of them are. And these are minorities too, and
for sure
they're talking about more like, well, it happens to us too, because it's more like the Black Lives Matter, right?
Yeah.
So they feel more like, oh, it happens to us too, and it's kind of a shame that that's where it's divided.
It makes sense though, right? I feel like I was talking to my friend about this yesterday. She's also Asian American, and it's complicated because it's like I'm super pro Black Lives Matter, but I do understand not that it's tough because like white supremacy is like so strong
Hmm.
that it's like it will make us turn against each other before supporting each other. So on
Hmm.
one hand, I see a lot of really great like solidarity happening. Kind of like a few weeks ago, I wasn't able to go, but there was a unity march here in San Jose of like black and brown people supporting each other and having unity march talking about police brutality against both communities and also talking about let's get the kids out of cages, let's get rid of ICE. ICE is fucking
Yes.
terrorism, which is important. Like we need to talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
all those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But I also get that in a way it's like a competition of resources because like hate crimes against Asians are rising, so then you get some pushback in the Asian community. Well, like I don't want to talk about this because this is happening to me.
What?
And you
Yeah.
get Latinx folks that are like, yo, our kids are in cages, so like I don't want to talk about BLM when we have kids in cages and ICE is terrorism. So it's complicated
Yeah. So
because
it makes the water muddy.
it does.
It really really does, and
It does.
and it makes it complicated because if you do bring it up, if you do bring it like, well, what about our people? And then well then fuck you because you're doing this, and it makes
Exactly.
it, and then right there you're already
Right.
divided. You're not gonna come up with a
It's
solution
hard.
there, and it's getting it
Exactly.
gets complicated.
Super complicated.
Yeah, and that's why from the beginning I said like, oh man, like, not all lives matter. But when I'm saying that if it was from the beginning, like all
Hmm.
lives matter, I
Yeah.
think it would have been an even greater movement because
Mm.
it would have took that naysayer, but my people do this.
Hmm.
Right. It would have took that off. It would have been like all lives matter versus the system. Because it's really the
Mm.
system that's
That's hella deep.
corrupted. Right. If it would have from the beginning, it was all lives matter. Oh fuck. It's true.
Hmm.
Because it is, because the Asian Americans, the
Of
Mexicans
course.
Americans, the
Right.
blacks, the African Americans,
Yeah.
they all getting attacked. So that would make it easier for everybody to kind of unite against one cause.
Mm.
But you right away, because I mean, I had no older Mexican folks that are seeing. I don't know if you've been seeing the LA stuff
There's a lot of stuff going on.
with the
Yeah.
paleteros and
It's a lot. There's people
yes.
organizing, rightfully so. Yeah,
So yeah,
it's a
so then now
lot
you get, and
happening.
then I even have people here
Yeah.
so they're miles away from it, but they're
Yeah.
like, well, fuck black dudes, like
Yeah.
and which is sad.
Right.
And then and then I know other people, they're like, well, Mexicans deserve it.
Hmm.
And it's kind of hard to that's why it
It
kind of
is
sucks
hard.
when you put a race behind it. But the good thing is that there is change, that something is
Right.
being shown to it. They're kind of coming up with laws and regulations. That's
Right.
why I brought you on. I wanted to bring you
Mm.
on because I seen you're really deep in the movement, or
Right.
at least in the streets, in the community.
Hmm.
And you explained, what was that documentary you had? It was a documentary you did?
Yeah, so my folks, Brian Knockin and Ryan, they've been working together. They met actually at BLM protests in San
Mm,
Jose, and so they're both. Brian is a rapper and an entrepreneur from San Jose. Then Ryan is like a filmmaker, and so they met up, and they started
nice.
like kind of filming the movement. And so Brian had been reaching out to me. We had actually met on Instagram first, and finally met. We've known each other on Instagram for a couple years. I finally
Okay,
met
okay.
actually at a protest. Finally, but it's like, oh, I know you already, but I
Nice,
kind of don't
nice.
know you. And so we've been talking about like we're on the older side of like, the protesters, organizers, like I'm in my 30s, he's in his 40s, and we're trying to really think like we want to see the younger, protesters kind of have a campaign. And so I was talking to him about affirmative action. He's like, I don't really know what that is. And it's on the table. So he's like, can we film you talking about it? I was like, hell yeah. So one of the things coming up on the ballot for California is called Prop 16. And it would be to bring affirmative action back. So in 1996, affirmative action was taken away in the state of California by a prop called Prop 209.
Hmm.
So what affirmative action did, it was a measure started in the 60s on the federal government saying like, hey, we understand institutional racism and sexism and discrimination against disabled people is real. So
Hmm.
we have to find ways to like, quote, level the playing field in public education as far as like colleges and universities, who's getting in, who's getting access, and public sector jobs like police officers, firefighters, any kind of public health, city hall, anyone who works for like the government, not like the elected officials, but they
Hmm.
have admin assistants and all these different
Yeah, it's
jobs.
kind of the lower level but important jobs. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So they were kind of like, okay, cool. We have to make sure that women, people of color, being like Asian American, Latinx, Black, Pacific Islander, even white women, and also disabled people have a certain level of like protection called protected classes to say like, hey, how come like at all these California universities, why is like Black, Latinx, and Native American enrollment like hella low? There's access issues. So it's saying like we have to have a certain level of percentage of like increasing enrollment. So
Hmm.
affirmative action help like level it out. Like, oh wow, so we're seeing people like applying of these races, but they're not getting in.
They're not
We
really,
have to
yeah.
use race as not the only determining factor, but like maybe this Black person had a lower test score, or maybe they are like missing one component of like what normally would get admitted to like UC Berkeley or UC Santa Cruz or San Jose State. But because we have a lower enrollment of students of these racial groups and we want to diversify, we're gonna kind of bring them in.
Yeah, to diversify, to make it better. Yeah,
exactly.
So I would be the first one to say at first I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it, because my thought would be, well, why take in, if there's two people, there's three candidates, right, and then two of them score really high scores, but the third one doesn't. Mine's more based on the context of the person, right, like the scores and stuff. But then after I started to realize that scores is not really the only important thing.
Exactly.
Right, especially in a university setting. Especially in a university setting, you would want to bring in different cultures just for the fact that you want to integrate people. You want to give someone who's been living in, podunk nowhere, Wisconsin, middle of nowhere. You could bring him in, and now he's hanging out with someone who's been living in Atlanta the whole time. You know what I mean? Or someone's been from Texas, and now you have someone in there to
making connections.
Yeah, and now you brought in your idea, your just the mental aspect of everything.
And working on like equity as well, because when we talk a lot about racism of any of our groups, it's like you can't have racism without classism and like poverty.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
That's what I like more.
Stuff.
That's
but they're connected.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's kind of like, let's say we're talking about like, since affirmative action was taken away.
I didn't know it was taken away though.
Yeah, in 1996 by this thing, we haven't had almost a quarter of a century.
Is that only California?
California. There's we're one of like 8 states that doesn't have it.
Okay, that's because I know there was that affirmative.
So like
that's the same thing with the football. Football is a Rooney Rule. So the Rooney, it allows you that a minority has to get interviewed for a coaching position,
for sure,
or anything like
that. But this would kind of go across the board.
Yeah, which is way better.
Enrollment of like students of color had went down significantly, and all these like higher ed institutions in California has not leveled back up since affirmative action was taken away. But then it goes, like we said, classism. So we could go to like
the money.
Different parts of San Jose, it's like if students of color are also low income, because that's not always the case. There are also high income students of color.
Yes.
Talking about low income students of color, if you're going to like an underfunded school, it's like you're not getting that equal access. So it's kind of like, it's not like, I think we call it equality, but we don't mean equality, we mean equity. Because it's kind of like if you're going to an underfunded school, so you don't have the same access to get into college as a peer of a different race that has more money, it's kind of like that equity. Because equity doesn't mean the same, it means like the same opportunity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's what is it? It's equal opportunity, not equal opportunity of outcome.
Yes.
Right, because I could give you the same book, I give two people the same book, but if one reads it and one doesn't, and one doesn't deserve to pass and the other one does.
Right.
Like you want but the whole purpose is to be able to get that book that you want to.
Right, the equity, like you were given the same thing. So like you said, what happens in school is kind of on you, but the fact that even if we have to change the playing field for both of y'all to get there, we've given you there's the access.
Yeah, because that I do see, because there is
for sure
that systemic part of it to where like you go in the hood or the projects or a lower income just neighborhood. They don't have the computers. They're not getting sent. Because I've been to schools where they give you fucking laptops. They give you you know what I mean? They give you goddamn answer sheets if they wanted to.
Right.
You know, and then you go other ones. It's like, hey, can you share with fucking this kid next week?
Like old books and not enough desks.
We're gonna push the test back next week because we don't have enough fucking books.
And we're seeing that even more now with like COVID. Because it's like that whole debate about like with teachers. And I don't know what the answer is, but it's like, do you send kids to school? Do you keep them home? And it's like, I have friends that are teachers, and it's kind of like not every kid has, some schools did give out the laptops, but it's like, depending on where you live, do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have...
Now I got to pay for internet.
Do you got hella people living in the same house? Maybe you don't have like a desk where you could like quietly set up. Is mom and dad working at home? There's so many like factors to it. So it's like, there's so many things on the ballot that are affecting, it's all kind of getting hella exposed at the same time. All this like, systemic shit is coming out.
And I think the only bad thing about that, I think, is because there's so much information coming out that people can't keep up with it.
They're not
going to be able to keep up with it.
Right. They're checking out.
Sorry about that. No, they're not going to be able to keep up with a lot of that stuff. And then now I think with the COVID too, it's exposing a lot of stuff that we probably don't even need either.
That makes sense too.
Like I've been thinking about like office buildings, right? They do all this kind of bunch of office for tech jobs and stuff like that. I think they're gonna realize that they don't need all the space. They don't need all that.
Yeah.
You can do it from your home.
A lot of people are going to keep working remote. Like my dad has a contract for Google. He got hired in January. Then it was like barely like 2 months in, stay at home and keep working. And they're having everyone work at home till the end of this year. And in 2021, they're going to even revisit if they should even but
Yeah,
they need him
see.
to go back to the office.
So then now that goes into, so that's even more jobs. So Andrew Yang comes involved again, right? Because now
Yep,
that's even more
exactly.
jobs. So let's say that's construction workers not going to build that building no more because
Right.
that tech job doesn't need offices because you have a home.
Exactly.
So it goes in.
Exactly.
It's a big circle. The whole system's kind of.
Like, what are the jobs that people? I've been talking about this for years before Andrew Yang. It's kind of like, you know, like Lyft and Uber came out, which I love. Like I drive, but I don't have a car, so I'd be like using Uber, take the bus and everything. But then taxi drivers kind of got like put off. A lot of them
they got hustled.
They do, but like a lot of them decided, all right, cool. Like I'm either going to change careers or I'm going to start driving for Uber, or like even though it undercuts the money. But it was like, well, every time we have like this tech advance, it puts off some other shit. So it's like you said, like, okay, cool. Like if people are going to work from home, you have all these construction workers, interior designers, security officers, receptionists, all these jobs that aren't going to happen in office.
Gone. Yeah.
What are those people like? What are you going to give them? Okay, cool. You want people to work at home, but that's like 200 people working at home. What about 200 people that was needed to work at the office?
Now what
are they supposed to do?
Or janitorial system.
You know what I'm saying? Everything.
Yeah.
Delivery drivers dropping off toilet paper and soap for the restrooms. Like there's so many like things it takes to have a building. What are they supposed to do? They still need jobs too.
Yeah, well, I mean, even taking consideration the Uber and Lyft, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Uber and Lyft. So their future plan is to eventually become self-driving, the automated, right? So then there goes all the drivers. So right now everybody's jumping in on the Uber, Lyft, and that's the extra cash. So then eventually that's kind of go away.
Exactly. So what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, but I'll say this though: the taxi drivers. Oh, speaking of that, just bring it back. They got gypped though, because I didn't know they paid like $100,000 for that fucking medallion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I knew a guy who was a taxi driver. And he was talking about that a while back with me, and he was saying that he felt like he was robbed from his job because of that.
Because that's city, bro. Because the city, you paying that to the city.
He said he was in line and for that thing for like hours, and like the line was long to get that
the medallion, yeah.
And so he said, "Why is it I'm gonna have to pay for this? I'm in line, and then like Uber drivers can just download something,
and then boom." Because they don't really do a crazy background. They just make sure you're not like a murderer.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
that's about it.
He was just like, "That's so unfair."
Yeah, but then it goes into, I mean, you know, and then I'm pretty sure people that, you know, were riding fucking horses were like, that's unfair, the car's here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like people who made carriages and shit, oh, the car's here, that's unfair.
Right.
So it goes in, evolution of technology starts to take away,
well, we're all just here, we need jobs. Like a machine can't do everything.
Yeah.
And
no, see, but I think that's all with the
trip.
pandemic. Now it goes because the machine can't do the grocery worker job. They
Nope.
can't, not, at least, shit, not yet, at least.
I hope not. Nobody built a robot to do that shit. You know?
Well, now they have machines that fucking build out, pick out your groceries for you. Like they go down the aisles and.
And Instacart was another hustle that a lot of people were doing during the pandemic. Like, oh, people don't want to go out. You could Instacart, kind of similar like Lyft and Uber.
Yeah,
like you get the app, you do it. But it's like if a fucking robot does that, that's just another hustle that people can't do.
They can't do no more.
Because the robot is doing it. So it's just like, I don't understand. Like,
see, and then so the devil's advocate to that would be that now it frees you up to do your, because the whole time, so what people's, I guess, wall would be, I don't have time. Like if someone goes, so why don't you do your hobbies? Or why don't you do what you really want to do? I don't have time. So that now kind of frees up, which the pandemic kind of freed up to, if you have, now you have all the time in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you know, so if you didn't have it, it's kind of sad because some people, like if you would ask them, if I could give you, I don't know, like $20 million, you do whatever you want, what do you do? Some people don't have an answer to that.
Right.
So, you know, and then now you take away the job, you take away.
What are they going to do?
What do you really do after that?
But do you think it comes down to money? Like I seen this video that one of my friends, he's younger than me, and he's one of my DJs. He had posted on Facebook last night, and it was saying like that millennials are like the unluckiest like generation ever, because it was so I keep hearing different like years of millennials. So like I was born in 84. Yeah. I've been hearing that like 1980s, like the beginning of millennials. I'm not sure if that's true, but
I heard 89 and up.
I don't see. I've heard so many different things. At first I thought I was not a millennial. Then I heard I am a millennial. I'm 35, but I was okay. But basically just close to within that like era, right? Because it was like, so we lived through that initial recession in like, you know, 2008, 2009 plus. And we saw like, thankfully I don't have student debt, but I know a lot of my peers had hella student debt.
Yes.
Took me 8 years to get out of college, but I didn't owe money. But people that got out sooner than me, they owe like hella money, and there was no jobs. Or like I had went for youth development and I couldn't get in the recession. And I was previously working at Starbucks. I had to go back to them. And I like, no one could hate the company more than me. I had to go back to the place I hated, but I had a job. But it was like, but it's also like a low paying job. It had great benefits, which is why I stayed, but it didn't pay shit. And so then it's like, okay, so we kind of like, and they say like one job leads to the next job. So if you've been had a high paying job like in tech, get like let go, then you kind of have
You
more
usually get something a little
chances
bit, to
closer.
get a little bit higher
But if
than
you've
where
been
you
like
were.
in the lower wage work like I've been, it's kind of like you could change jobs, but it's challenging because they're going to look at, well, what have you been
It'll
doing?
still
And
be the
what's
same
the pay
range.
scale that you like deserve or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
And then now the pandemic hit, and I was like, damn, not to be like hella emo negative, but I was like, yeah, that is really sad because for a lot of people having student debt, not able to own a home, at least especially out here in this, not just in the Bay, but like in our state,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so
Just so
expensive, like
expensive for
without
nothing.
having the wages. And now not only not having the wages like our parents had, but also having like that kind of security because like, okay, we sort of got through the recession, but we saw the rich got richer and the poor got poorer
Yeah.
across the spectrum. And then now like pandemic, it's like, oh shit, like the video, it was like a 12-minute video that this like journalist guy had like made. And I was like, damn, like it's like
It
sad, but
hits.
it's not untrue.
No,
Like,
yeah, and it hits home, and then you see kind of
yeah,
that makes you it puts everything in perspective, right? Because you see how much things change. Like say
right,
a middle class family.
right.
I don't think there is really no more middle class families.
It's
Like
kind of slowly been wiped away since that recession
yeah,
in like
so
2008.
yeah, I think even before that, because I
For
think
sure.
before it was the middle class family was not to be all what is it I forgot the word for it, but be all egotistic with it. But usually the male goes out,
Mm-hmm.
the dad or whatever provides for. He's able to provide for the family, take them on a vacation, do all that stuff, right? That's how it kind of started. The white picket fence. That's the American
I
dream.
think that probably started to end by like the 60s, huh?
Yeah, and then it turns into well, shit. Now the mom has to work too in order to get that dream. So then
Yeah,
now you have the mom and the dad doing that to
working.
enable to provide that vacation, that family, that one
Right,
week, that weekend to get out.
right,
And then it turns into well, now the mom, the dad, and the brother got to be working, and now
right.
everybody got to be working to
It's
pitch in.
true.
Like
More than one job.
yeah, now everybody, yeah, and now people. It's kind of sad, but people kind of like, well, if I have more kids, well, I don't know. I'm kind of between because some people I feel like they feel like the more kids they have, the more opportunity they
Mm,
feel like they could kind of come out of it because one of
mm-hmm.
their kids is gonna make it.
Right.
I think that's how some people feel. And then, but I've been reading that lately kids have been on the decline for
Yeah,
the same reason because they don't want to be in debt
because we
because
can't
there's so
afford
much in debt.
kids.
Yeah, because you're getting out of high school and
Yeah,
you owe fucking
hella
$100,000,
money.
$50,000, hundred
Yep,
thousand dollars for a degree that you're probably not even working in that
right.
field anymore. Or
Then you figure like you working so much, like even if you want to have kids, it's like if you're paying back all this debt, if you're like single, it's kind of like where would you meet like a partner? Like if you even want to get married or settle, if not get married, like settle with someone,
yeah,
like live together, cohabitate, have a kid, like kids and stuff. It's like where would you even like meet them? When would you even like have time? Which is a trip.
yeah,
Where it's
yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
it's on the decline for like so many reasons, and
yeah.
then it's expensive to have a family.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. And then yeah, just to maintain it, and then you're
right,
in order to maintain that house or just your apartment, you have to
mm-hmm.
work godless amount of
All the
hours,
time,
and then that's what turns into divorces going up
right,
because you're never home,
fighting about
and then
money,
you're cheating over here because
right,
you're probably more you're with that one person 12 hours out of the day, and then
more, yeah.
it's a
It's
home
really
away from
sad,
home, and I think
right?
all that stuff kind of just
What
plays
weighs
with
on
it.
people,
Yeah, and it kind of just breaks people apart,
right?
makes the world kind of stressed.
The world is super stressed. You can feel the
Yeah,
energy.
yeah, yeah. You can kind of,
Yeah,
and I think right now it's kind of like at a boiling point with the pandemic, and then
right.
people being out of work, and when the
Political
George Floyd
strife.
thing came out,
Oh my
and then
God.
it
Right.
just popped. And
Flip the lid.
yeah, 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 definitely. But so with all this, so you're really into all this. So what made you? What was your first, I guess, reasoning to come into to become active? Like,
Mm.
what made you become so involved?
It's interesting now. I was talking to friends. Like now, it's a trip to say there's cloud chasing in social justice and activism,
Yeah,
but just
yeah,
like
there is
anything,
that.
the
There is
music
that.
industry, social justice, there is, and I see a lot of people trying to get famous right now, which rubs
Yeah.
me the wrong way. But we're not here to talk about that. But like, so like I said, I'm 35, and when I was 17, I joined this organization called Californians for Justice, which is a statewide grassroots nonprofit, and they still have an office in Eastside San Jose, and it's like empowering lower income like youth of color to like fight against educational inequalities in their schools. And I actually didn't grow up in East San Jose. I grew up on the west side. But when I was
Hmm.
in 12th grade, we had to do like 6 volunteer hours to pass like the government class to graduate high school. And so I wanted to kind of get involved with something like social justice and like just communities of color. And I had reached out to this group in Oakland called Erase because I had found them online in like the early 2000s. And they were like, oh, but you're in San Jose. Do you know CFJ? I was like, I don't. They were like, oh, you should call CFJ. Like they're similar, but they're youth-based and they're in your city and da-da-da. And I like called them and just like went out to one of their protests about educational inequalities. And they had these like youth meetings and kind of like youth summits and taught you how to like kind of community organize and do campaigns. And they trained me like 17 and 19. I was like hella involved with them. And then it's kind of like when you kind of start learning about social justice and seeing like intersectionalities, like
you start to see
you see how it's all like connected. And so then it was like after I had graduated high school, my first year in college, I stayed like really involved with them. And then I really wanted to go to this hip hop political convention in Newark, New Jersey in 2004. And I didn't know anyone who was going. I didn't know how you could go. Like I had no idea about any of the shit. And Kathy, who at that time was the lead organizer of CFJ, was like, I'm going to get you LinkedIn. I'm going to make some calls. And she got me linked to people from like Silicon Valley Debug and from Makla and different people in the hip hop community in San Jose. I was able to go out there. And like do that. And then that kind of opened up like the arts world more to me that was like in San Jose. So it's always kind of all been like very connected as far as like the artists, the artistry, the social justice, like the community organizing. But it started as like a teenager. And it's like just seeing that like just intersectionality of like all these issues. It's like then having friends of diverse backgrounds from all over the Bay. It's kind of like it's all super personal. Like
it makes a big difference on what you're. I think coming from California, I think we're lucky.
Right.
I think we're lucky because I think we're kind of more. I think it took so long for California to have this explosion,
right?
Because I think in California we were kind of blind to that. Like I'd be one to like I don't think racism is that crazy because I hang out with black folks, Filipinos. Right. So for me, like racism not out there because the people around me are not doing that.
Right.
Right. So I think it's very important that you're in there, you're in the street. So they're actually coming at you with stories. They're coming at you.
Right.
You're actually in there, which is
talking to people because I think the interpersonal level of it it's real, but I don't think you're right. It exists, but maybe it's not as intense as in some other places, or even maybe in less urban places of California. But like the systemic shit is like so real, and I think that's kind of what we see a lot of like response of is like people getting emo, pissed off, realizing that the systematic thing is so bad here as well. Like there was an article that came out the other day that like San Jose scored like a F on our like independent police auditor like access, not on, and there are people who like watchdog the San Jose Police Department. Not that they were doing a bad job, but that like San Jose just wasn't having the same like openness as other police departments around the country and like having the same accountability for like officer misconduct, which is like.
I think that's the biggest thing. I think the accountability, because the I've been talking to people. So the George Floyd guy, the guy that murdered him, I don't know his name, but the guy that murdered that guy, he had about 18 like reports on him, right?
Right.
And I've been hearing that most of those reports came from other cops.
Right.
Right. Because most of the time, people don't really set reports. The times I've been dealt with the cops, I'm not sending a report, right? So most of those reports came from cops, and it's just the internal affairs is the issue because they're the ones who don't.
They're just letting it.
That's
ride.
Okay. Yeah, and I think because they're current officers. If I know right, the internal affairs are current officers, which I think that should change. It should be like ex-officers, doctors, lawyers, people who actually know. Fucking ex-judges or something in the outside panel to judge that, because I think that's the bigger issue.
But I've never understood this ever about cops prior to like now. So coming from like a customer service background, I worked at Starbucks for a long time. All the Karens and Chads of the world will call your manager and complain about you when their latte is not right and you get written up, you get in trouble. I've been investigated by Starbucks, by Karens and Chads fucking complaining about me. And like you bust your ass at Starbucks, but it's like, but that's not a like, we don't carry weapons. We're not the end all be all. We're not we're not the we don't do like public safety or like public health or like defusing, and it's like they're like
you're not meant there for that.
But it's like to like when someone complains about you, like it's a big deal. Like I ended up getting fired for customer complaints. All this shit happened, and it was like, this is some fuck shit. Like this is not like the end all be all of anything, but they take like
and this is Starbucks, but how come that's not being implemented in the
but like the police force. So I'm thinking like if I got sent home, and it was actually a customer that was bullying me when I got sent home and got investigated. They actually started it, but of course money talks.
They have the policy.
But I'm thinking like, but that was a Starbucks, which has like nothing to do with like
anything
real life. But then like you said, police officers have like complaints in their jacket by like either other cops or even by citizens that are having issues. And then the police departments are kind of like, it's cool, and they carry fucking guns and
that's
tasers and batons. Like, it's cool, we're gonna let you keep driving around the city. But like other customer service jobs, it's like, oh, someone called about you, so like,
you have
like,
to get out of here, and people find that justifiable. People are like, oh well,
right,
she knows her job.
right,
She
but
knows that she can't talk to them like that. Like people will justify that.
exactly. But a
Hey,
cop,
can you give me the
you
cup
were
that's on there,
totally right.
the beer walk cup on there, bro? So that's what I'm not. Yeah, so no, but I totally see that because
Yeah,
you
no, you
see,
were super right.
yeah, because that people would justify like, well, she knew her job. She
Right,
should have spoken to, even though she was
right.
wrong. She should have never said anything.
So fuck her. But when it comes to police
Yeah, to like, oh
officers,
well, because I mean,
man,
I'll be the first. Okay, it's a shitty job.
yeah, for sure.
Being a cop is a shitty job. As far as I mean, it's a good cop. It's a good job,
You
but
gotta be so perfect.
it's
That's why.
no, and you should, and you because you're supposed to be outstanding. You're supposed to be better than your
You're like
normal citizen.
example,
But you're human, right?
No, yeah, of course, but that's where the training comes in. But
right,
you take that job knowing that you're supposed to be better, right?
right.
Like same way a football player takes a job to get hit in the helmet because you know that's
You're
your
aware
job.
that you're gonna
You're
get
aware
hurt
you're making your money to do it. You do this.
for
So
sure.
as a cop, you should be aware that you should be better than your normal citizen.
I would hope so.
Yeah, that should be like the number one like fucking interview question. Like you
Right,
know you're supposed to be better. If
right,
someone's talking shit to you, you're supposed to be just take it in. As a cop, you know you're gonna get. You know no one
right,
likes you. You're supposed to be able to take it in,
right,
right? So, but that to me falls all into training. Like all that,
right.
it's all just training. It's an easy. I think it's an easier fix than what it's kind of being implemented. Because I tried to do the whole cop thing right
Mm.
earlier, and it's like 6 months of training,
Which is
6 to 9
really,
months of training.
it's
I'm
really
like,
scary.
dude, you take longer to be an electrician. Like what do you?
One of
And
my
I'm gonna
homegirls who's
hold
a
a gun.
hairdresser was writing that it takes longer to become a hairdresser, which I'm not minimizing. They do put
No,
chemicals
but
in your hair, but like
yeah, and now I'm gonna go protect and go protect and serve.
the gun thing, I'm like, you
Yeah,
carrying a gun.
and it goes into because the whole what is it, the defund police thing, right?
Hmm.
So my whole thing is like, I get where you're going at it, but if you defund the police, you're gonna make it worse because no one's gonna want to be a cop because you're not making good
Mm.
money. So then you're only gonna get shittier fucking officers because you're gonna get basically security guards
See,
who
I
want to be
actually think you're
cops.
gonna get better cops.
You think so?
Because the whole thing about defunding the police is like they're not saying like cops like suck at life. It's saying like you see situations all the time where like someone goes to jail or someone turns the fuck up because cops came. When especially like when I used to work at Hamilton Plaza in Campbell, we used to have to call the cops out, which I'm not a fan of because we would have mentally ill people, we'd have homeless people, we're having issues, we're like low paid baristas, like we're not
So you
social
have no
workers.
one else to call though.
We had
but
no
the
one else to
cops.
call, but what we really needed were like social workers because we'd have homeless people like freaking out. And I'm not judging them, I get it.
No, yeah,
But it's
yeah,
like you have no one else to call, and then the cops just come and they start yelling at you, gotta go, and that person's turning up, and the cops turning up.
And then of course it turns into now ego and
It's an issue where like what we really needed were social workers to be like, hey, are you cool? Like we can take you to be able to have social workers de-escalate, and then also have services like we can take you to a shelter, or do you need to go to like a
actual
mental health
help.
clinic? So it's kind of like I think in a way like it is a shitty job being a cop, but even though we need major reform, I'm pro defunding the police. That we're also asking them to do too much. Like
That's where
you know
I
what I
like
mean?
because
Like,
I've been telling people since before all this started. I've been telling people like because when I started to do the cop thing,
mm-hmm.
I would tell people like we depend on cops to deal with the drug issue, the mental
Yes.
health issue, bad
Yes.
parents, kids who don't give a fuck,
Right.
the low income issue,
And that's not really what
all
it
in
was
one.
designed
That's not
for.
what it's designed
Exactly.
for. So all that turned into them versus us now.
Exactly.
Right, it turned into, and then a big one that I think too should be taken away from all cities, which is what I'm saying is when you should fund the cops more. I mean, I'm on fund them more because one thing that should be taken away is quotas.
Fuck yeah.
Right, so quotas make the cops pull you over. They forcefully.
Especially
I'm gonna
like
get fired
downtown.
I'm gonna get fired next week, so I got to pull over 3 people tonight.
Yeah.
One of those 3 people is gonna talk shit to me. That one person is gonna get hit.
Like end of the month.
Yeah, and and it really is. You could tell. I think it's every 2 months where they start doing the quotas come in, and it's every quarter. So I believe it's every 3 months actually. So that's when you see cops on the freeway. You start seeing. So that I think automatically puts tension to them because now my job's on the risk. My life's on the line. My job's on the line. I gotta make this quota, and this dude's over here talk shit to me, and so I think that automatically brings in tension, unnecessary.
It puts people
tension.
on the defense.
Yeah, it should never
freaking out.
That should never. You shouldn't. The city shouldn't be enforcing laws like that to try to get money for the city because that's what
totally.
Yeah, so I think the funding should be into that. So that should be taken out. Funding should be into implementing more training instead of 6 to 9 months. It should be 10 to 18 months. Like,
I mean, even to get like a freaking AAAS takes like 2 years.
Yeah, I'm
know?
one. So I've been telling people. So this is would be my reform. So it'd be 18 months of academy training. During the 18 months, you must maintain a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Smart.
Yeah,
I
you
feel
must take a yearly physical every year.
I super
So
agree
no
with that
fat
too.
cops. There's
Right? No,
no
you're
fat
right.
cops.
I agree with you.
There should be a psych test every 2 years.
I would think every like 6 months.
I've been thinking
they see some
about
wild
that.
shit out
Yeah,
there.
so
You know?
to minimize that, the only reason why I would say every 2 years is because you don't want people to be like, okay, fuck, next year every December I got to take a psych test. And I think it kind of puts a little bit more pressure again because everything's pressure, right? Humans crack under pressure. So I would do it every 2 years, do a psych test, but every 7 months you put them on a desk job for a month.
That makes sense, like
You know
detox.
what I mean? Yeah, just to get them away from people, put them in a safe environment where they're not stressed out 24 fucking 7. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But then,
wanna be on the
but you
field,
force
you know
them.
what I mean? Like,
You force them.
Yeah.
You make it. Well, then get out of the force, then, bro.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, if you don't want to be a fucking Rambo, go back to the army.
Yeah.
Like, if that's the situation you're coming at, because this is not the army. This is protect and serve. You know, it's not meant to you be, gun hoeing down the street.
And they need a lot of like mental health services. I know a therapist out in the community that has a private practice and works at a nonprofit, and she was saying that the city has been kind of like reaching out to like make sure that police officers are getting like therapy sessions, but it's still very like stigmatized because it's like you do see a lot of like traumatic shit out there, and then they're walking around with it, and they're having a lot of like high levels of alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence. So that's what I was saying. Like, I get what you mean about the psych test, but like, if they had like regular mental health, like as part of their job, like
that should be managed like a
once
every
a week
Friday
or once a month or whatever. You get your 1 hour with your like therapist, or maybe even like a life coach if the therapy is scary, but some type of like mental health like professional to check it, like, how you doing, decompress yourself. So that it's like you're not just, like you said, you're not feeling like you're in the army like walking around like Rambo. So I'm super pro, like they do need some kind of like mental health support, so they don't just like go off the rails, because you gotta wonder, like, racism is super real, and we're seeing how that played out. But then it's like, and that's one component that needs to be like addressed. But then it's also like, how fucked are you in the head that you're walking around with a gun and a baton and, kind of free reign, do what the fuck you want to do. And we're seeing how it plays out. So I'm not diminishing the racial component of it, but it's also like what went from just being like racist in your mind, like maybe saying fuck shit, and then actually having the violence.
Doing it. Yeah, because I'm a firm believer that it's not like the cop, they don't wake up like, I'm going to kill a black guy today.
Right.
Like, I mean, there might be guys, don't get me wrong.
They could be, yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
But I get what you mean, like.
But it might be,
there's other things that
led up
work
to it too.
Yeah.
Because I've heard too, like, where people go to a response and we're like, there's a dead baby. They write the report to that, and then you go do a traffic stop. And the dude at the traffic stop is just fucking yelling at you, and you're like, you don't know what that does to the human brain.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, PTSD is a real thing.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So then you have to be able to have time to take them apart and decompress themselves. Like, definitely do that. That's a must. So I'm a big fan of the reform, but to reform right. Exactly. Because the defunding.
They're just gonna bring in the RoboCops, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
that too.
That's what I'm worried about. I'm pro defunding police, but I think the issue will be that I'm for it, but it's like, are they going to do it correctly? Meaning like social workers, de-escalators, mental health providers, addiction specialists, like homeless shelters, mental health care clinics. Are they going to get the shit we really need? Specifically like in San Jose, where we see chronic homelessness, chronic addiction, not being connected, like a lack of homeless shelters. Or are they going to do exactly what y'all said? Like, so we're going to take money from cops, but instead of like training social workers and like mental health guys, we're going to get fucking RoboCops with like flashlights and night vision. Are they really going to do, when we're talking about defunding, are they going to do it the right way and get what we actually need? Which could be, like you said, getting cops that they need reform-wise, but then also taking some of that pressure off of them with correct services, which I'm about. Or is it going to be like, we're going to take money from you, but we're not going to get what actually is needed. We're going to get a really bad version of you with less stuff to send on the streets. Because I feel it. Like, that is really scary.
And that's how, or they implement so less stuff and then more of a surveillance state.
Yeah.
More cameras everywhere, or more of this, because now.
Drones,
like it's going to be everything.
No, I get it.
Yeah, it's going to be like, we're going to take it from far now.
That's how they pick up speeders. Like a drone seeing you speeding.
And no longer a cop pulling you over. It's going to be the drone giving you a melt and ticket. You know what I mean? So
but again, it gets complicated.
And it gets into like, I want my privacy. So how does that turn into, how do you solve that part? So it's just kind of like another circle, right? But you brought up the homeless situation and stuff like that, because I know when you were I was introduced to you you were introduced to me as a homeless activist, right? By Cherry the Vixen. Shout out Cherry
My
the Vixen.
sister Cherry the Vixen. I love
the Vixen,
Cherry.
shout out.
Yes.
So so my line of work kind of deals with that. I do hazmat. So seeing the situation, being like directly involved
for sure
with a lot of that stuff,
yeah.
it's very depressing.
It's
very depressing, especially coming from a rich city,
right?
Somewhat of a liberal city, one you would think they would be helping out a lot of these people, but it's really, I don't know if you can say it's probably hurting them more than anything. Some of the situations,
I think it's totally hurting them more,
right? So I'm asking you more of like, what's your point of it? Because the people I ask, is people I work with and everything. I'll tell you the truth. The most common answer that I get, like, what do you do with the homeless? It's kind of fucked up, but the most common answer I get is you gather them all up, you put them on like a fucking corner of a city somewhere, and you leave them.
I hear that a lot. So no, I feel it.
And you only you don't let them hang out in the streets. And if they want to hang out, they got to go back to their corner of the street.
Damn.
Right, and I hear that from a lot of spectrums of life, a lot of like minorities, whites, fucking anybody,
different income levels.
Yeah, they all have the same thing. Like,
right.
Pick them up, put them to the side.
Right.
And for me, I don't think that's the idea. That's not the right idea.
No, I totally agree. It's not the right idea.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, no, but you'd be surprised how many people fucking agree with that. Yes, but you'd be surprised. You'd be fucking surprised. So for me, my question is like, so what do you do with that? Or like, what would be your, if I were to give you fucking presidential powers, like, Lindsey, you do it.
It goes to like what y'all were just saying. We're talking about, defunding the police. Like, we have different views on it, but in essence, we care the same as far as like taking pressure off cops and like handling situations. It's so tough, like in San Jose, because it's like we technically, this is a rich city, like we technically have the money, but it's so complicated because, you'll often hear the pushback of like, well, they want to be out there because they on drugs and they're trying to go to the shelter and this, that, and the other. And of course, the reality is there are some people that are very far gone that probably would be on the streets no matter what. Yeah. But how small of a like minority is that within a community that like needs jobs? They need housing. They need mental health care. They potentially need rehab and support from like drug and alcohol addiction. They might have PTSD. If any of us live down the streets for hella long, we're going to see some shit. We are going to see some shit that will fucking damage your humanity. So it's like so complicated because it involves a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of resources that are like not being provided, because it's like you'll put someone in rehab for like 90 days, but depending on how deep the rabbit hole for you is of addiction,
that's nothing.
That ain't shit. Like, I'm very open, my ex-boyfriend, I'm not here to trash him by far, but he is an alcoholic, like severely like in the shit, and
we're drinking and shit.
Yeah, which is cool. But y'all having fun. Like, I feel like some people, y'all just chilling, but like some people really have that issue, like problem, and so he ends up going in and out of jail, and it's often because he's drunk, and then deals with like, because you're using, there isn't like a stable place for you to live, so you keep going like in and out. And so that's part of how I got like super passionate about like alcohol and weed free shows. Not because I think those things are bad, because some people really need to be in a kind of a sexy fun place that doesn't have those like temptations.
Yeah,
y'all are chilling,
glamorize that.
Some people aren't. It's not just chilling, it's like a thing for them. And then the homelessness is kind of like a lot of that is connected, but we don't have enough, we're not creating enough resources to address it. So when you say like, what would I do? It's like, well, I know what we need, but it's like, is the city or the county or the state
willing
like,
to do it?
Are they willing to do it? Because I do get that some people are like super damaged, and no matter what, they might be out there. But again, that's not most people. But it's like, do you have a healthy place for them to live that might have to be not like babysitting or jail, but you might need like, again, de-escalators, social workers, mental health care providers. They might not be able to live like in their own apartment. They might need to live somewhere where like they have their own room or their own like place, but there's someone on site. Are we willing to like make that? But then they tend to make it so jail like that. Of course, people are going to fight back because it's not it's never done correctly
with curfews and because no one really wants to be told what, especially as a grown ass man or grown ass woman. You don't want to be told, hey, you got to be here by 10:30.
It's rarely kind of done the way that it like needs to, because again, resources are limited, money is limited. So instead of running it how it like really needs to be run, they get kind of run like jails and prisons. Exactly. And then people rebel and they keep using, or they keep, things keep like happening. So it's kind of like, and then the city will be like, well, see, we tried that shit and it just like didn't work. It's like, because y'all didn't do it right. Yeah. And then that tends to be the excuse. Well, we did a pilot program of
look at San Francisco.
Oh my God.
It's like that's like, oh my god, it's so depressing. Like you look
So
good.
like the mission
Yeah,
is just like,
and it's
oh my
sad.
god.
And it's sad because and like instead of helping them, like they're setting up tents where you can shoot up in there. And I get
Right.
it.
Right.
I get it. Like
For
'cause
sure.
you're trying to clean up the city, but it's
Yeah.
like you're fuck, what's it called? You're not when you're providing it, but when
You're
you're
kind of like enabling it. Like,
yeah,
that's
you're
cool.
an
Keep
enabler.
using.
You're an enabler.
Keep killing yourself.
Instead of using that resource to get
Right.
the tent, like use the resource, you know, like
Right.
to try to sober them up or something.
Right.
Like just I don't know.
Help them.
Yeah, trying to help them out instead of
Right.
just cleaning the needle before you put it in them and shit.
Right.
Like, could
Like
you see it?
go all the way. Like I get it. You don't want people getting HIV because they're using dirty needles. So I get the idea of like, if they're going to do it anyways, we want you to be like as safe as possible.
Yeah.
I do get that, but I also get what you're saying. Well, if you had the money to have the tent, or you had the money for the clean needles, why didn't y'all go all the way and be like, we also have, you know, rehab, or we have like NA meetings, or we have a place for y'all to take a shower, or a place to detox safely off the drugs.
I have seen because when we do the cleanups with the homeless encampments and stuff like that, I've seen where people come out and they have like portable showers for them and stuff.
Yes, they do.
And they feed them and this stuff like that. Because I know you're big in that too.
Yep.
Yeah, to make I think they even give out like clothes and stuff like that, like and that's the kind of stuff I think they need. Because a lot of these people, they just need another chance.
Yeah, they do.
You know what I mean? They need a reason to want to get off the drug, or to want. And a lot of them are probably not even on drugs. Because I know there's spots where right here in San Carlos, right here in San Jose, there's a Safeway there where there's a lot of homeless people that live in their cars, but they work every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day they work. It's just they have nowhere to go. So they go back in the car, they live there, and then they leave again.
Yeah, they do.
People in the motorhomes and stuff.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Could they
see it not far from here on Spring Street. The city was kind of kicking them out, but over there, like on the open lot by like Spring Street and like Heading, people were living like in the RVs. There was people in tents that had jobs.
Yeah, I remember that.
You'll still see tents now. That's more like hardcore, like homeless, no jobs. But like a few months ago, especially when it was like raining, people were like legit living there because even though it's close to the police station, they weren't really like bothering people there.
Yeah,
but those people that had jobs, like they're still like getting up every day.
And that's why, and that's probably why they live right next to the police station and stuff like that. Because if I had a job and I like this and I had an RV or whatever it is, like I'm probably gonna try to feel safe. Because I mean, in a home you feel somewhat secure, right? Because you have 4 walls and shit, locked door and this and that. So I would probably want to move as close to the police station as I could too, so no one could fuck with me. I mean, that's what you're trying to get away from. You're still trying to live somewhat of a normal life. Those people are like, you're still doing a 9 to 5, and you gotta. Yeah, you still gotta fucking come home to the street.
Right.
And you know that has to do with the California just being so fucking expensive too.
Exactly.
Like
since 2017, San Jose has risen 31%.
Over the homeless. See now, okay, so that goes into
18% in the county.
That goes, I think, and also
that we know about.
You think you think the word gets around? You think the word gets around like, hey, these people take care of the homeless. Get over here. Let's go over here.
I think it depends. So like at the restaurant I work at, and I'm gonna say this low key because it's like technically not like legal, but so like my boss, Miss Jackie, I work at Jackie's place as my day job. She used to like be like a director of like a homeless program. So she's like super compassionate, and she's always all about like feeding the homeless. So like there was a lot of homeless folks that were like living in the neighborhood, like where our restaurant was before the fire. She would like bring them in, come on baby, like I'll feed you. Do you want to like go clean up in the bathroom? And she would like let them sit in there. She would like feed them. She is self-admittedly clean and sober off like drugs. So she like is a zero judgment on like people that are using drugs. She just feed them. She's like, people need to be loved. They need to be fed. She would like take care of them. She would go like make food at the restaurant and take it to like the shower truck places that like fed people. But there is like a lot of homeless folks in that general area because we were in Japantown. So like if you go like a few blocks to or from, you see like the big camp. So sometimes at like the end of the day, there would be like a lot of food left over. So we couldn't say it's from like Jackie's place because there's like the laws about like getting sued.
Which is I mean,
a problem.
Fuck, I get once again, it's too much red tape to do good shit.
But so my coworkers would be like, the ones that had cars, they would be like low key. They would just like pack it up, and they knew there was like this big camp of guys, and they like knew the guys, and they would just kind of like stop by there and just like bring them food, and the guys would, thank you so much, like we appreciate it. So the word kind of got around that like it wasn't every day, but it would be like at least like once a week when there'd be like on a slow day, which wasn't a lot for us, but it'd be like they would just feed people, and the word would get around, and they would like share the food with each other.
But when more people come?
So more people would like come. And there was like always people out there, so they never like went to waste. There was always like someone they could kind of like leave the food with.
But you see what I'm getting, like, so like say San Francisco, right? Like, so they're
Mhm.
providing tents and shit. Like, so I'm kind of even thinking that kind of spread, that word spreads, like
For sure.
within the homeless, like, hey, come to Frisco,
Yeah,
and like people from Seattle now are coming down, like,
I wouldn't be surprised.
because I see there's homeless people with like cell phones,
Yeah,
and okay. I'm gonna be real. The one that bothers me is when I see like young homeless, like asking for
it's a trip.
change.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's intense.
But I think it bothers me more. Like, okay, when I see like young males
Hmm.
doing that, I think, to me, I don't know if it's just egotistic or I'll be the first one, but to me, it's like, dude, like, fucking join the army or something. Like, just me personally, I guess it turns into like, if you're like, because I see like 17-year-olds, or like it looks like they're 21, like asking for change or something. Like, dude, you could like be working, you could kind of put yourself to use, don't. And that's what I think it affects the people, the real people who are working the 9 to 5s and
Oh, for
have no
sure.
homes. And I think that
For
gives
sure.
it stereotypical, like,
Yeah,
gives
it's tough.
a bad image.
Right.
You know, I think that's probably just me being biased on that shit.
But I mean, it's unfortunate, just like anything. There are people that really are homeless, down on their luck, when they're asking you for a buck, like, I need food, I need water, I want to go use the bathroom somewhere, that are like super like genuine about it.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, again, it's not a huge percentage, but then there are the fucking scam artists that are out there asking for money. I don't even mean because they want drugs. I mean people that probably like don't really need the money.
Yeah, because we all seen those videos that show like, oh, he left in a Mercedes.
Yeah, so it's complicated because
Yeah.
like there are people that do suck at life and are like doing that. And then of course you get, because people don't want to deal with homelessness, they use that as their excuse. Well, they're gonna go buy drugs, or like they don't really need it, so I'm not gonna give them no dollar or whatever. And it's like, again, everything's always complicated because things are complex and it's like multifaceted. So it's like, I think it's like a judgment call. It's like, if you got a buck and you want to give it,
you do want to give
if you can afford to go buy someone a sandwich and you did with the right intentions, that, you know what I mean, like,
because there's times where I even want to do it, but I have to give it up because I feel like that's like Jesus and shit one day.
you're trying to have good karma,
that's
right?
how I
Like,
feel
I'll
like,
do
man,
it, like,
because that's how I feel like one day, like, what, you know what I mean, like, they're like, hey man, I asked you for money that day and you didn't give me nothing. Like, that's how I feel. Like, oh shit.
Because I was at a gas station and there was a homeless guy. I walked into the, to pay for my gas, and as he's coming out, I'm coming in, and I turn around, like, all I see is his ass cheeks, right? Because you couldn't see nothing else. Like, oh man, this is terrible. Like, I can't believe it. And then I was like, I went to whatever, and he's asking for change. And the first thing he asked me is, "Hey man, you got a jacket or something, a coat?"
Yeah.
And then like I remember I had like my gym bag, right? And I was like, "Let me see what I got." I didn't tell him yes or nothing. I just wanted to see. And then as soon as I went in there, I'm like, "Oh shit, I got a jacket and I got some sweats." I'm like, he needs some sweats, man. Like, I'm gonna hook him up. I gave him everything, and then as soon as I did that, you see
everybody started doing it.
Yeah, you saw other people doing it. Like,
that's dope.
yeah, I was like, what the heck?
Because someone wants to date. So a lot of people want to help.
Right.
And they just need the reason. Yeah, that kind of trigger.
They want someone to be the first person to.
Because they're scared. A lot of people are scared. Like, oh, because I mean, you get scared. Like, oh, he's probably crazy. Like,
right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go kill him.
Oh man, like that's my initial thought when I saw, like, man, this guy needs it. Bro.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's
that's good that you did that shit. That's good.
I was like, dude.
Yeah, and then. I mean, that goes to, but it's crazy how that mentality goes into the difference too. Like, you ever hear like, what is like the mob mentality, or when people don't do anything,
right? I forget I know exactly what you mean. Kind of like you hear screaming, or you see somebody getting robbed. You're like, I'm not gonna do nothing because someone's gonna do something.
Yeah,
and no one does anything, and the person's
call.
like bleeding on the ground. And you could have been the one. Like,
one social experiment when the people walk in the elevator and like one or two people are facing the wrong way, and then people were like,
"Oh, they get hella scared and they want to turn around." Yeah,
so that's kind of like the same thing. Like, people react to other people.
Yeah, because you want to, or like when you're in the public and you just start running, you'll probably get people running with you. Like, oh shit,
because they're starting to freak out a little bit. Like, oh shit. Fuck, like what don't I know about? Like,
yeah, no, because that was getting really bad too with when camera phones started coming out.
Oh man.
Yeah, because I heard some stuff where like people, I think some girl was getting stabbed. It's gonna get gruesome here. Some girl was getting stabbed in a subway station, and then people were so no one helped her. She died or whatever, right? And I think like a day or two later, video came out of different angles of the fucking murder.
So everybody just
people were fucking recording it and shit. I'm like, dude, come on, like,
right?
That's like terrible. Yeah, that's when like at that time, like, that's society's going down when it comes to like
humanity.
Yeah, you're not no more human.
Right.
too disconnected. You're too living
like it's
through
an actual person. Something's happening.
yeah,
Like right
because
now,
it's coming
real
through your
time.
phone though. Just because you have it here, you're
Right.
disconnected now.
It makes you feel
so
like.
what do you? So let me ask you this then. So you being active about this like in the community. So what do you think technology is going to take us eventually? Like, what do you think?
That's a good question.
You know, like where do you think? Do you think we go up? Do we get smarter as a human, as a culture? Do we get dumber as a culture? What do you think?
I think it's like both.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing I was kind of wondering, going back to like, as far as like police brutality and like you see, cops murdering like black and brown people on film, it's like the brutality is not new, but the technology is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then one thing I kind of wondered that I personally have been like struggling with is like, okay, if I saw a cop like beating or about to kill a black or brown person, am I gonna film it or am I gonna say something? And granted, like, they could hurt me too, but it's like, do you like y'all were saying, it's like, do you let it happen or do you be like, hey, like George Floyd? It's like, do you say like, why y'all got your knee on his neck? It's kind of like they might still do it, but then they know someone's like watching. So it's kind of like, on one hand, I think we're becoming more informed because unfortunately some people learn by like seeing the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, it's exactly what you said. We're also like disconnected from humanity. Like we're always just like on our phones, like we're engaging. Yeah, we're going to put this online, but we're here engaging in person, having energy, having a conversation about similar and like different views. So I think it's kind of like both. And it kind of depends too, like where you are as a person. Like, do you see what's online and it informs how you try to live in your real life? Or are you in like a weird bubble where it's like, oh, I just like look at my phone and like look at Instagram and look at all these different, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think pessimistic. I guess it's just more of on that, and it's more of the people are getting too disconnected. People are getting with social media is being less social.
Right.
You know, people are becoming dependent more on the clicks and the clickbait. That's how news gets spread around now.
Right.
That's how Elon's coming out with the fucking brain chip, the Neuralink. So now you have the internet in your head.
It's real.
So like I think, but at the same time, I'm still a big believer of technology is what we're eventually we're gonna go into. I think we're gonna integrate with it, just like that. I think like your kids are gonna want that Elon Musk chip in the head.
That's some wild
because that's already been implemented, right? That's
right.
Little children now already know how to swipe.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me because. But have you noticed? How crazy how good they're at it though?
Yeah.
Like good, you know, look up the fucking dude that says it. The humans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's the humans are robots' sexual organs. That's right. So the theory is basically that we're just here basically to become robots. Right?
It kind of feels like it could unchecked.
Yeah, they were just kind of here. They were the reason why.
We're caterpillars.
We're the caterpillars and the robots are the butterflies.
I still don't understand like how we just make a robot for like everything. It's like, I mean, I get on one hand that there's people that are like super brilliant and they know how to like build stuff and they're good with like tech and like coding and things that I personally don't know shit about. Like, I have no idea. It's a foreign thing to me. I respect it, but I have no fucking idea what's going on. But it's like, how do we put like, going back to the whole Andrew Yang thing, like automation, it's like, how do we just have people that are so brilliant? And that's cool, but like, there's no one to kind of be like, okay, so you're hella brilliant. Like, we have a need, like, is there a way like we could use the technology, like serve the homeless? Like we need these like shower trucks. So I don't know what the fuck we need, but you know what I mean? Like to utilize it for better social activities.
Yeah, so I think that comes. So I've been thinking about that too. So a lot of that stuff comes into say capitalism, right? No, so the only reason why we have a lot of these inventions is because you monetize it.
Exactly.
You're unless there's a way to monetize feeding the homeless or getting rid of the homeless, there's really not going to be.
That's sadly true, though. You're
right.
You
know, because as much as like I'm all for like socialists and helping out people and doing this and that, but to be like you don't see Russia making new cars or making new shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like or like North Korea.
Right.
China's a little different. They're capital /
That's a super complicated.
That's
a whole other shit.
That's the well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I think that all countries kind of want to become. Because you kind of get
hopefully minus like the repressiveness of the whole shit.
I'll be real sure. I think most countries want that. The way they even have it, like even because they're to be able to kind of control everything. Government kind of has the foot on everything, and
corporations or
Yeah,
government.
you still be able to make money, but
Yeah.
it's
People have like no
corporate.
rights.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, oh my God.
so you have no way to even speak up
Like,
for yourself, and
Right.
what
then
is
you get
that?
shut down.
That that
Totally,
factory in
Foxconn.
Foxconn, they got like safety nets
Yeah,
for
for the
employees.
iPhones.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so stuff like
They block, like, I think it was like China was trying to block like TikTok, and like, and they do, like, there'll be stuff like we don't want people to like see this film,
yeah.
or like we don't want this hashtag to like be available, and then they like block it, and like they and there's like, and they really do. And they really do,
Okay, so
like,
stuff like that. So that's the stuff that kind of gets me. So when I say people get mad when I say selective outrage, right? Like it's when I say, oh, then you're just supporting the system. I'm like, no, I'm saying because the system's kind of making you choose what you're outraged about, right? Like say China, we take China again. Disney movies, when Disney makes movies, they literally take out like black characters and they put in Asian characters to make China happy.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But how come that's not, you know what I mean? How come that's not racist or that's not that? But then that's okay to support the NBA. They're the ones giving all the NBA money. Like, you're kind of picking, it's like picking your battles kind of thing, right? So you kind of go for the one that you can kind of prove more, I guess. I don't know. It's gray. It's not all black and white. I think that's what we got to learn.
Exactly.
There's a lot to this puzzle.
Always.
Yeah.
And then going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, when you're saying, other people of color then aren't really with the shit with BLM, but it's like, it's tough because it's like, it is super gray and it's always presented as like a black and white issue. So I've been seeing like Black and Brown Unity, which I love. I'm totally about it. Or talking about like voting. And I see a lot about specifically Black voters or Latinx voters, totally pro it. But then it's like, as an Asian American, it's like, they don't even ever put us, like, they don't poll us. Like, when you see it like in the news, like, white voters are feeling, Black voters are feeling. The Latinx thing is like still pretty new, and that's also hit or miss.
But I like it because they're getting in there now. But like,
they are,
but like that, like, as an Asian
like,
American, I'm like, what the fuck? How come our vote doesn't count?
Yeah.
What happened in Harvard?
Yes, you hear about that?
Yeah.
Asians are like suing.
Yeah.
That's a very complicated thing. We're talking about affirmative action earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
See, and
I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, so, it's true. Okay, good shit.
It's a very like, it's a super nuanced thing, and it's predominantly first generation, very wealthy Chinese immigrants that have like American born kids or kids they brought when they were small. Not only, but mainly. And so, because Harvard is like a very white institution, they don't want affirmative the specific group of wealthier Asians, mostly Chinese, don't want affirmative action because it's kind of like the anti-blackness is so real that they think if they're anti-black, it makes them like honorary whites. So their fear of like affirmative action and race being a possible preference in choosing who gets into Harvard, which again is white as hell. So if we're talking about diversity, if Latinx, Native American, and Black students are like hella underrepresented and race is used as a factor to possibly choose who you're going to bring into university, because Asian students tend to be overrepresented at a lot of universities because historically we were barred for so long from so many schools. Then post 1965, not only Asian immigration went up, so did African immigration and Latinx immigration, but specifically Asian immigration went up hella high. Post 1965, when the laws changed, you started seeing so many more Asians enrolling at these like schools. So then we're considered overrepresented because there isn't like necessarily as long a history of say white folks going to these schools, because we're like a newer group compared to like white people, because there was all these like immigration laws that barred like our families from like coming here. So you have these like very rich Asian families again who think they're like honorary white and are like upholding so much like anti-blackness, anti-Latinxness, that are like, oh, like we don't want affirmative action because it means that like my kid's not getting in. So fuck affirmative action. So again, it's complicated. It's not all just white and black all the time. So it's like you're also people of color, but you're upholding so much like anti-other people of color for your own like privilege. So it's like maybe your kid might not get into Harvard if they're using race as a basis and being like, oh, we have a certain percentage of Asians, but we have to increase Black, Latinx, like Native American. So maybe like your kid's not getting in. But it's like if your kid's rich, they probably also could get into like rich with good test scores. They could probably get into Princeton or Stanford, where some of the other like peers of color
prestige schools
might not be able to. So it's super complicated. It's been raging for like a couple years.
Because
it's very nuanced.
Because I was on the side at first. I was on the side of being like, well, shit, if they're kicking ass on these test scores, fucking let them in, right? Because like if they're gonna be a doctor, I want the best doctor. I want the highest score doctor to fucking do the surgery, right? And then it goes back into like, but in a university basis, that's why I feel like in the university basis, because what happens if, so now you get all Asian Americans in that university now.
Mhm.
So now that university is basically Asian American.
Yeah,
So
and
you
then
don't
it's not
have that.
diverse
You
anymore.
don't have no more
like,
diverse. You don't have that. That's what I'm saying. Where test scores are not shouldn't be the only
exactly.
shouldn't be the only thing that gets you into a university. It should be. That's why they make you do like, hey, you were on the football team, or you were on the fucking gymnastics team,
Right.
you're on the debate team, because you coming from different fields. You're coming
They're
from
trying
different.
to diversify the university.
Yeah,
at
you
as
don't
many
want the
levels as
same. You don't
possible.
want to
Yeah.
fucking 2,000 students all from the same background. You don't
Exactly.
want that as a person as a university. A friend of mine kind of, because I was with that, like, fucking let them in. Like, if they're scoring, let them in. Like, that's the Mexican fault for not scoring high scores. Or that's how I'll be real with you. And then a friend of mine kind of broke it down like that. And it said, well, now you're getting to one peer of a race. You're not gonna get diverse. You don't get another think tank. Teachers are thinking the same way because they're teaching the same kind of background. There's but
and then it goes to deeper issues too, because at least with Harvard, it was people that were primarily first generation, which kind of goes to a multifaceted thing of like, if you don't learn American history, like real American history, then you don't learn about racism, especially against Black communities, Native American communities, Latinx communities, our communities as like Asian Americans. And because that was primarily first gen families that had money, they didn't know the history of like racism. So they're not really aware of like slavery or how so many parts of the United States were Mexico, or like genocide of Native Americans, or like China's Exclusion Act. So that it's like, because they have money, like not having that understanding, like, yeah, when they're using race as a factor of like who they're choosing, it's not to oppress you. It goes back to that talk about equity.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah,
if a student of any race fucks up in school, that's kind of a different issue.
Yeah,
But in terms of like how we're giving people access to get in to like hopefully do their best, it's like that's what it's about. But it's like when you don't have that consciousness, of course you're gonna make it all about you. And then we know that like classism and racism, they go together. But money talks. So it was like thinking you have like, oh, I have money and good test scores. What do you mean I don't get in? And it's just complicated.
Yeah,
like,
no, it is, because I mean, what is it? Like Immortal Technique says that, I don't know, Immortal Technique, but when he says that I have more in common with the poor white guy than I do with the rich Latin.
Exactly.
Right, like that's
exactly.
And, at the end of the day, that's what it really is. That it's. I mean, there's still the racist bias behind it.
Of course.
There's still the racial aspect. But
it goes back to that Harvard, like when she was saying, like that the Asian family that's
because they feel like they're already
feel more in common with
that has nothing to do with
Yeah.
me. That's like, this is my shit. This is I'm in it. So why am I gonna fuck up my system?
Yeah.
And that's how it is, and it's true because it goes in. But I think that's human nature. That's tribalism. That's you protecting your tribe, right? Because if you have something good for yourself, and it's gonna help out your benefits, that's thousands of years of fucking monkey brain telling you like, protect your own, keep your own.
That's true though.
That's why you do a lot of the, and I think that's more the older cultures. How you're saying the first wave of families and first generations.
Yeah.
A lot of the first generations, let's be real with it, they're super racist.
Right. No, it's true though. It's not a lie. Across cultures.
Across everybody. I know some racist ass Mexicans, some racist ass Middle Easterns, some racist ass Asians, some racist Black folk, white folk.
Exactly.
It goes across, but because that's coming from thousands of years of that monkey brain.
Right.
And now we got the internet coming along.
Oh, man.
Right. And now we have, like, I have a thing saying that the internet right now, it's like adolescence. The internet, it's still new, right? The adolescence is you just screaming out fucking just sex and fucking and violence and just whatever it is, right? No, just spreading out, right? It's puberty right now. Like, fucking,
I don't have to listen to what you say.
Yeah, internet's fucking,
maybe not in our families.
Yeah, but the internet right now is like puberty right now, right? It's growing pains. It's fucking, I don't know, I hate you, mom. Whatever, I'm running away. It's all that stuff. And then eventually, I think it goes into, and then you get a little bit more mature of it. And I think that's the process that we're going through right now. Like it's filtering out all the other that I'm running away, mom, and then it grows into more of an adult.
Right.
Does that come from censoring?
That's the scary part. That you want it to come naturally. You wanted it to come from, a grassroots fucking, hey, no racism shit.
China's doing that. Like, they censor it almost.
Yeah, they say they have
hella hardcore censor.
They have an internet score. So if you talk shit about the government and I'm friends with you, my internet score goes down and shit. Like,
that's on Black
exactly.
Mirror.
That's directly from China and shit.
Yeah.
So that's what you don't want.
Exactly.
Score. Yeah, that's what you don't want.
Scary.
That's the stuff that's scary. The fake news and
right.
Because I'm big on conspiracy theories. Right. I'm super big on. I'm that guy.
So the tinfoil
tinfoil hat and everything. Or at least I used to be. At least I used to be. Now I'm kind of more on the boat that it's more of incompetence. A lot of these guys are just, they're human too. They just, greed gets in the ways, right? But the big conspiracy theory would be that the fake news is like, that's why they brought in Trump for that, to implement fake news, to be able to use that word fake news. Like literally, I think
I can't even believe that shit was like trending. Like, you know what I mean?
The
Like
fake news.
Fake news. Like
yeah.
even when he first got in office or whatever, it was like everything was always trending.
I think that was like specifically for that. So
yeah,
to have him, because now if you could be like the best journalist in the world, and you come out with some real shit, and then I post it, and that's fake news, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like who's determining what's fake news?
It's like the new crazy, right?
Yeah, like this guy's crazy. This guy's crazy.
Right.
And that's it. The fake news just shuts you down. Like, and
that is true.
And now Facebook is putting, like, they'll flag you, say, hey, you're spreading fake news.
Yeah, that happened to people that I knew.
Yeah, I've been spread on that shit.
Yeah.
Because I post a lot of articles.
What's it called? Like Instagram jail or whatever. I've been in there.
Yeah.
Or not Instagram, Facebook jail. I've been in
Yeah. They'll tell you, oh, like, next time, like, fucking this, like, watch what you're posting, and like, well, who are you to? Yeah, like, who are you to?
No, so like right after Trump got elected, I got locked out of my Instagram, and it was on some shit like, your password does not match. You never verified your account, which I did. And so there was like a period of like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I couldn't get in. I finally had to like make a new fucking page. And then like randomly it was like they let me back in. But it was like, because I've been posting all like, fuck Trump, like not my president, Obama forever type of shit. And it wasn't even like, I wasn't saying anything wild, like I'm going to kill Trump. It wasn't anything like violent. So I would think like if you're going to say like some violent shit,
then I'm
not for censorship, but then maybe they're, if I'm going to kill him, like then maybe they're going to like watch you.
Yeah.
But it was just like, fuck him, he's a racist, he's a homophobic, like he hates women, like what we already know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I got like locked out. I went to like Instagram jail, but they disguised it as like, your account's not like verified. I was like, no, you just don't want me to post my like
talking shit,
fuck Trump, like stuff. So yeah, I got flagged. Like
Kathy Griffin got in trouble for that.
See, but she's calling for the head thing, right? See,
that was some wild stuff.
See, but that's called for action. So freedom of speech allows you to say anything you want to say, right? But it doesn't allow you to call for action of violence. Like you can't sit here and say, kill all Mexicans,
right?
Like you can't. That goes again because you're calling for action, right? You could say, I want to kill all Mexicans, because that's freedom of speech, right? You can't, but you're not calling for action. So when she was doing this, you're basically like calling for action of it. Like if you were to go like, oh, everybody, we're all gonna kill Donald Trump today, like that, you're calling, we should do it. You're calling for the action. So your freedom of speech ends there. It's the same way like when you scream fire in a movie theater.
Yeah,
your freedom of speech is no longer there because you're intentionally doing something to harm.
Danger.
You're calling for action. Because you know when you say fire, people are gonna fucking run.
Yeah,
so you're calling scared. You're calling for action, so your freedom of speech no longer exists for that.
Yeah.
So which
that
I'm
was
all
some deep stuff, like what happened, and then it kind of goes to the whole thing of like, we're not for censorship, but it's like individually, if we're gonna speak out, it's like, when should you speak out, and then is there like a too far? And because she was always like hella outspoken, it was kind of like, I guess you kind of went too far. Even people who didn't disagree with her message, we're kind of like uncomfortable. Even people who were like, fuck Trump, were like uncomfortable with her, and she kind of like, paid the price for that, and she got like investigated by like the FBI. Like it went down. Like this shit was deep. Like,
they come down to get you.
It was real. Like I don't know. So I guess it kind of comes down to like, you can kind of say and do whatever you want, but there's consequences. They might not be right or wrong. I do think they went too hard on her, like for real. But it was like, you made a choice that you thought was right. And I've heard her say in interviews that she doesn't really like regret it. Like she doesn't regret doing it.
No.
She like stands by like how she felt, and I respect that. She like stands by what she did. But it was like, unfortunately for her, she spoke out, and there was like hella consequences to her own personal like kind of well-being, and also to like her career. So like,
because I can imagine the fucking hate she got, because these fools, they go hard. I'm not gonna lie, the Trump teams, they go hard.
And she's also a woman, so it's kind of like, if it would have been a guy, it would have been bad. Gonna go super hard. Fact that she was also a woman, I think definitely like ramped up how much people like hated her saying anything. Like, that was some wild stuff. Like in the beginning of this like era.
This whole thing. I mean, shit. I don't even know what do you think is gonna happen next? Do you think he's gonna win? Do you think that works? Let me get a little prediction in the 2020 race.
What I'm worried about is like, because Kanye West said he was going to run, and granted, he doesn't have the paperwork, it's too late to file, but I've seen people I know on social media, people I know to be like educated, like smart people that might not have the same politics as me, but I know that they're like that they read, that they don't, they're not on the
They're
fake news.
stable folk.
Yeah, they're stable people that have like free thoughts, and they were like, oh, I think that Kanye would be better than Trump. And again, people I respect, like people that I've worked with, like people that I know, like they've worked with me on shows. I've worked with them in different places. I'm like, do you know what like the president like chooses? And again, I'm not that I'm so thrilled about like Biden, but I'm kind of worried that like people are just gonna write in Kanye West.
Yeah.
Kind of because they like him as an entertainer. Maybe they forgot that he said slavery was a choice, which still disturbs my fucking humanity. He thinks that Planned Parenthood is doing the devil's work, which is like, you can be I'm pro-choice, you can be pro-life, that's fine. But
okay, see, that's
it's the devil's work
thing.
disturbs me. Like,
I'm not sure about the devil's work part, but I have heard, I have a lot of brothers out there who are super anti Planned Parenthood. Like super anti,
for sure.
Which I get because Margaret Sanger, the founder of it, with the whole Blacks Are Weeds.
Yeah, it has really negative
bad,
history.
Yes.
The thing that sucks is like,
but I think now
they do good work now. So
now
it sucks.
It's kind of,
I get where that comes from, but it's like they've been doing all this COVID testing. They have prenatal care.
Yeah, I think it changes after a while.
So it sucks that the history is like super negative, but then
because I think it lies more on the abortion part, right? Because everything else, fucking everybody's cool with it. Everybody's getting fucking their dick checked, their fucking everything checked. Everybody's.
But I think people get so wound up by both the history and then
as soon as abortion, the history,
such a small component of what they do.
Yes.
So again, shit is complicated. Like I get the history is.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way defending the history.
Hitler like fucking praised her.
Yeah.
Hitler praised fucking Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, I'm not saying the history is cool.
No, yeah. But so then
sucks,
people
if they take it away, like they do so many services.
You throw the baby with the bathwater.
Families. Yeah, and then that's the whole thing. Like, okay, if we want to say fuck Planned Parenthood because of the way it like started, it's like, but then what's the alternative? Because men and women and like low income families, like people still need
still gonna do
the services.
Yeah.
So if you don't want it to be at Planned Parenthood, what are you gonna make instead? So because
it turns into okay, like even if you get rid of abortions and all that stuff, right? You're gonna turn now you have back alley abortions.
Yeah,
it turns into you're always gonna have it. You're gonna have that's why you got moonshine. That's why people are always gonna have the black market, and they get dangerous. And now you're gonna be paying more bills because now you're paying the hospital bill for the one that did it wrong.
And a lot of women like die or get like
and now
weird
you're getting
disorders, diseases, cancers, in their reproductive areas because of back alley abortions. But with the actual election, I don't know. That's kind of why I'm really trying to get people to vote and to not only think about like the president, but also like the state propositions.
That's what it is.
Mayor, because I'm not sure what's going to happen because we don't have. Ideally, the two-party system is a whole bunch of bullshit, which is a whole other podcast you could do. But it's like the candidates aren't great, and then Kanye West saying he wants to run kind of. I wouldn't say it threw a wrench into the shit, but it complicates it more.
Like he's taking the black vote.
I would say this. He did that because initially he was a Trump supporter, right?
He was.
And what is he doing now? He's taking all the black votes away from Biden.
Right.
And who's going to take that? Even if they write him in, who's going to win out?
That's what I'm saying.
Splitting the vote between the Democrats,
right?
Even though if you write them in, you're not going to write in Biden. That means it's a win for Trump, right?
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm kind of like worried about. Is like I know Trump is like worried now because of like the protests. There are more like BIPOC voters under 35. They're like, I'm gonna vote like fuck Trump, like more so than in the previous election.
He's losing a lot of stuff with the military ground.
He is. That's what I'm saying. So
with the whole Afghanistan,
he's
Russia,
getting worried
that
he's not gonna make it. So then that's why I'm kind of worried. Like if you would have asked me before Kanye said that, I was feeling more confident that Biden like had a shot. Not that I'm pro Biden, but it's like let's just get Trump the fuck out of office. But then it's like fuck. Then Kanye said that, and I'm seeing people really say that they're gonna like vote for him.
Legitimately
saying they're gonna like actually vote for him. And I'm like,
I think it depends on who Biden gets as a VP.
True.
Because I'm expecting fucking Biden to be done like in 2 years.
Hillary Clinton.
I hope.
Fuck, that'd be crazy.
Where the fuck she been though? That shit really pisses me off. Like she didn't win the fucking presidency. Then the whole country was like on fire with similar BLM issues. You know what I mean? Like anti-women issues. Shit. She is, but it's like we have Bernie and Yang out here doing the work still.
She was anti-gay. She was anti-gay like in 2013.
Yeah, she was.
So like I'm like, come on, you just go with the wave, bro. You're just going with the wave.
I think honestly, right now, I think what I've heard, I think she's isn't like they're investigating her because
Oh yeah, she's in court because the whole.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
I think
because the
that's why she's kind
emails.
of been out.
That she's on the low with the whole Epstein thing.
Yeah, Epstein.
Yeah, that shit's a
Yeah,
trip.
they just arrested
Mess.
the wife too of that fool.
Jocelyn, that
Jesselyn?
girl.
Jesselyn?
Yeah,
Maxwell?
Jocelyn Maxwell. You know that whole
Yeah, that's a whole other like.
So okay, so
that's
that's
a can of worms. Oh my god.
so that right there to me is
so
like
much.
so that to me is like say a selective outrage, right? So you would say that's one of the biggest scandals is like fucking the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
Like this dude has blackmailed politicians, royal family, scientists, doctors. Like that should have been like front page news. That should be like
it was on weird like TMZ shows, and that was about it. Like
you know what took it out? What literally took the Jeffrey Epstein murder out of the news was Popeye chicken sandwich.
I do remember.
Popeye chicken sandwich wiped it off. No one gave a
No, you're right though.
fuck. Bill Clinton was on his plane 26 times and no one gave up. So my thing is, people are, who cares? They're like, no. These are the people who are making these rules.
Right.
These are the people making your laws in your city. These are the people. So you don't think they're getting fucked with when someone knows that you have, I have pictures of you fucking a kid, bro. Like, you're going to make my city the way I want it.
Right.
Make the state the way I want it. You're going to get rid of those people. Then that's how you start. That's how you start over from the top down. Fuck it. Yeah. Bring it down. But I know people love Chick-fil-A fucking
They were
Popeyes.
flipping tables at Popeyes. And
people punching each other.
Wild Star or World Star. Like,
people are bringing in their own chicken. Like, here's a chicken. Make me
I still can't believe that was like.
That's crazy.
And it almost seems so long ago because granted it was this year, but the year has like shit.
So much shit.
I was like, what was that? Back in like January or the end of last year? I don't even remember. It was like people were like freaking out. Like. For sandwich at a fast food place.
Yeah, or a fucking like $3 burger.
That was a trip too.
Toilet paper shortage.
That was like, or going to the grocery store and like seeing that there's legitimately almost no product
at all. That was scary though.
That was a little scary in the beginning. Like going to the store, like there's no bread, there's almost no meat. But the thing that was weird was that there was like hella produce. Which is like,
which is kind of like,
which I was excited about, but then it was kind of weird. Like, so you bought like hella toilet paper, all the frozen food, hella meat, hella bread,
proteins,
no produce, which is gonna keep you super healthy.
Well, because they're thinking about, they went a famine mentality, so they went like get the heavy starches because all the potatoes were gone.
I get it.
All the so all the heavy shit. You eat this today, you're good for the next 2 days.
But then it kind of also shows that people feel so like emo, horrible all the time because they eat like so bad.
And there you go. Because
so
all the snacks were gone.
It is like more expensive, but it was like
all the snacks were gone.
You bought like hella chips, but like there was like apples and like zucchini that you didn't buy.
Yeah, because it's not like electricity
horrible all the time.
Yeah, like, it's true. No, that
was some deep stuff.
That has a big role to play.
It does
with just how society kind of just ticks.
Right. But that was wild.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like what the first like month and a half, it was like pretty bad. As far as like going to the store and it was like hit or miss what's gonna be there. And then I would say probably by maybe like mid to late April, it kind of like stabilized a little more.
People
it wasn't as bad.
Relaxing.
People stopped like freaking out.
People noticed there's still toilet paper. I think that's what relaxed.
People were overbuying. That's why it was like the shelves are going out.
What happened was the one dude probably bought hella fucking toilet paper. Had a hella toilet paper, and then the person next to like, why is he buying it? I'm gonna buy some too. And then they ran out, and then they just fucking. And then
like
it went
viral.
And I think it went viral because someone probably took a picture of it and then everybody, oh my God, that's smart.
Right.
There was this dude who bought like all the supplies, like Perel, like hand sanitizers, and then he tried to flip it online and sell it for like.
I saw that.
Like I don't know how much more, but he tried to make like a big ass profit back, bro. Like damn.
But people were buying this shit though because it was out from like everywhere was out. There were people that were buying it though.
Yeah, but then like I guess I think Amazon, I don't know, eBay caught on and they're like, oh, this shit ain't right, bro. So they
banned them or whatever.
Sucks.
Yeah.
But it's supply and demand. Yeah, see, but that sucks too. See, I think supply and demand sucks when it's from a store because I've heard like during when Houston was flooded.
Yeah.
There was like I think Best Buy was selling water, but it was like for a 24 case, it was like $50.
Yeah.
For like a 24 pack, like $50. Like, what? So then they got fine, they got tickets and shit, like because that's like you're a store.
An essential
but if I'm
resource.
selling it to you, then I think I kind of have a right. to sell it, I guess, at the price that I want it at.
Right.
But if it was a store kind of thing, I think there should be like a difference.
Right.
You're a fucking company.
Because it's like equal access. It was like if you hustling on the street and someone's willing to give you the money,
yeah, that's
different. But if maybe only like the only store in the neighborhood is like a Walmart,
yeah,
or a Best Buy, and you need water, you're gonna die. It's like then you're kind of fucked. Like
yeah, that's like, come on, that's fucked up.
Right.
Yeah, so they deserve to get that shit.
This whole thing, I kind of like took initiative of just instead of buying at a big, general store, I'll try to hit up the little
mom and pop shops.
Yeah,
that's the most. That's
buy
the
local.
Yeah.
Around, like I would go to lunch like down the street right here, this family restaurant. Whatever.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
like,
that's the way to do it. Yeah.
That's
right.
what I took out of this whole
support small business, local business. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's a
corporations don't need us. I mean, technically they do, but like we're seeing a lot of small businesses like closed because of this. So it's like, oh my God, like I've always been about buy local, but I think you're right. A lot of people are realizing that they need to support local.
Yeah, they started to realize it.
Yeah.
For like people to buy it on Amazon.
Right.
Like even grocery shopping, like.
Yeah, Instacart you can get through Amazon because of Whole Foods. Yep.
So they like.
That's technology making people lazy.
Yeah, it's shop,
yeah, that's true. It's taking, But then again, it goes into the, maybe that's what we're meant for. Maybe. So I was saying about the technology, right? And how it is so easy for kids to catch on so quick.
Right.
And then how I was saying that we're here, the humans are the sexual organs, the robots and stuff like that. That maybe that's what we're supposed to be, because if you notice, times get easier, right? From fucking medieval times to now. Like if you were to say, what's easier time? Everything you're going through right now, or fucking back in medieval days? Like, obviously, you're like, well, fuck today, right?
Because we have more resources.
We're more resources, more everything. Yeah, you know what I mean? Just everything.
Although
in
it
general.
is COVID, so I don't know. Like,
right? But this was like shitting in streets and so times get easier, and I think that's human nature, is to try to make everything easier, right? Like from the beginning of the Stone Age, is making the wheel, creating fire, to now.
Right.
We have fucking technology and robots. And I think that's the human progressive, is to become easier, because we don't stop making cell phones, right? We don't stop making new TVs. We don't stop making cameras, even though the iPhone could practically see through you and shit.
Right.
Next year is going to be the brand new one.
Yeah.
So that I think that's human nature, is always to progress,
more.
to be it. So I think that's kind of where we're kind of headed to, is to become that robot butterfly. Is to be.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, So then, of course, you're always gonna have the rebellious aspect of that's not the way we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And this and that. But the reason why I kind of feel that we kind of are, is if you give a kid a cell phone, never seen it ever, you give it to them,
they just
fucking know it. They know it. They up and down. They know what it is.
Right.
And you give an adult, and I don't know, like
we're like learning it. Yeah. The apps. And
maybe because we already have too much information in it. But I mean, that could be one thing, because the adult already has way information and the kid doesn't have anything there, so it's able,
like their brain is still forming.
Yeah, and it's still able to grasp everything fast enough. But I just think there's something there too, where they're so they know the mechanisms so easy.
That's a trip, huh? But you're right, because I have seen that.
They know it's so easy. Like, by 2 days they're already like fucking screenshotting.
I reprogram your phone, Mom.
Yeah, they're
right. I have my TikTok, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my Twitter, and whatever the fuck. Like,
yeah, they get down.
Like flyers, like I made everything.
Photoshopping, check it out. Hashtag.
Yeah, it's true.
And they get down.
Yeah, they do.
So I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking. And then just the way technology is leading to now.
Right.
Like, that's where kind of everything's becoming automated. Everything's.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, I think
because of the era that we were born, and we've seen like how quickly it like
the jump.
It like changed.
Yeah, you went from playing outside to like no one's outside. No one. That's
one thing I liked about the pandemic, though, is like in the beginning, before like mask was like mandatory.
Yeah.
Like you've seen parents that like had to be home, and they're like, "Oh, like I'm gonna take my kids to like ride bikes." Like I remember like in the 80s and 90s, that's what we did, and now it's like I haven't seen that in so long.
That's a pandemic activity.
That made me like I'm sad that like this is why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Made me happy, like being with your kids, like throwback, like but yeah.
In order to do it, had to be a pandemic.
Which is sad. Which goes everything we've been talking about the whole time. People are working too much and like everything's expensive, but that made me happy. Like kind of old school, kind of like quality time came back. At least in the beginning. Now people are so just done with life.
No, yeah, because you're over it. Yeah, because I was kind of saying in the beginning that I think it'd be a good idea to have this as every year. 1 month, boom,
Right.
everything shuts down.
Because like you
Kinda
can
like
see
a
how
stress
clean like the
reliever.
sky's been and
Everything.
stuff.
The
Yeah.
fucking ocean got cleaner.
Hell yeah.
Animals started taking over the streets and like everything. Like
The squirrels in your neighborhood got a lot bigger, right? Have you seen it? I saw squirrels so big they look like a cat. I was like, what have you been eating? Like, because no one is out. Like, why are you so big?
But have you seen the animals? The ones that have like they're having like turf wars. Like I swear, like in New York,
Because people aren't out, so they're like, I'm back.
Because you know New York has hella rats, right?
Yeah, they do.
I think there's more rats than humans in New York.
No way.
All right, I don't know
Some
how
places.
I don't know how they
No
fucking
way, bro.
calculate that, but you can even look that up, bro. There's more rats in New York than there is humans. But anyway, so no one's out there, no restaurants are not open, so the fucking rats are having like a turf war. They're
Those
going
rats are big.
yeah,
too.
they're going into other rats' territories and they're killing each other. It's crazy. And even in like I think Thailand or some shit, it's they're I don't know if you see it. There's a tourist spot where hella baboons are at. Or I think baboons or hella monkeys. There's a lot of monkeys where they feed them and stuff like that. So now they're like scavenging everywhere because they're used to
people like
tourists
bringing
feeding
food,
them.
right?
Yeah, so that's how they
shit.
reproduce. That's because they're getting
And
food
now
from them.
they need
And
to
now
get
there's
their own
nothing.
food.
So now their monkeys are like killing each other and like it's
Like
crazy.
survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
for real.
yeah.
So they put it this way. I had a number here. It says 5 rats per person in New York.
Oh yeah, see.
I've only been there once, but like I did see a lot of rats.
Oh man.
I think I see 5 rats per person.
5 rats per person.
That's a shitload of rats, bro.
I kind of wonder about that because you know how like in New York it's like an island, so like all the buildings are like hella tall, and then unfortunately when you have like an urban area like that, like there's a lot of litter.
Mhm.
So I was kind of wonder like you know how rats they kind of like places where it's like dark, like at least in like San Jose, if you see like ivy bushes or like a dumpster by like behind a restaurant or whatever, usually rats like living in there because of like the way like things grow.
The
It's like
setup
dark.
of it, yeah.
So it's kind of like in New York, everything's like tall and there's
Everything
like little
is that
crevices.
setup, right? Yeah.
They like that shit.
Yeah.
Like they thrive on that.
And they're huge.
Yeah, they are.
They're fucking huge. That's crazy. Well, now you look. Now you got any current events for me?
Wanted to bring up that one, that Fort Hood soldier,
Vanessa.
Yeah,
Oh.
what do you guys think about that? I know we were talking about it a little bit last time.
Yeah. Well, that goes into the fucked up system, right?
Yeah.
The corrupted system of
Yeah.
not having nothing to do with racial aspect of it. Just because I know I probably would get some shit of it before.
Supposedly, these were the 2 that were
I
charged.
think though, unfortunately, I think even though, you know, the guy is black, I do think there is like a racial component that there's been historic, like kind of stories that have been covered up of like women of color, particularly black and like Latinx women that have been like really unsafe in like the armed services. So while possibly the incident,
I heard that more with women in general.
Well, women for sure, but
Like
specifically women of any race for sure, but especially like black and Latinx women. It's like, do I think that they killed her because she was Latinx? No. But do I think like
cover it up?
The cover up has a lot to do with like her race because
to make it easier to cover it up.
To make it easier to cover it up. So like yes, there have been white women that also have been like things have happened, but it seems like there's been so much like disproportionate sexual harassment, sexual abuse of like black and Latinx women in the armed services that have been so covered up. Do I think that's why it happened to her? No, but do I think it's led to why we got to cover it up? We can't talk about it. We can't let it come out. I definitely think there is some racial undertones to it for sure. And then the bigger issue of women in general not being safe.
Yeah, and
in
that's
these places.
So what do you think?
Is very scary.
So what do you think about? So I had to say this to our last guest. I'm probably gonna get some shit for this, but I'm not okay. So I'm not justifying it. I'm not. That's all bad. So get that out there. But I've been thinking about the reason why I say it happens to girls a lot because this has been just like back in the day, right? It's been known that women get raped and this and that, but it's usually like overseas, right? Which makes this even worse. Which makes this guy even more of a piece of shit because he's here, right? You know, so whatever. So most of this stuff usually happens overseas or anywhere. But the reason why I say is like, I think they kind of double think it is because you get all these kind of alpha males, all this kind of like testosterone filled rooms and shit, and then you throw in a girl in there or an attractive looking girl in there, and then you get, I don't know how to say it, all these alpha males trying to get at that, there's too much testosterone, bunch of dicks everywhere, right? Dickheads, I'm talking about, like attitudes and stuff like that. The reason why I compare it to is I used to work in a factory setting, right? So nothing but guys. Okay, nothing but guys, and a girl will walk by, and I kid you not, it's one step away from barking, like the way the dudes react. And I'm not trying to be more like savior or whatever. Like it's the truth. It's the way I've seen it. That the way guys react to an attractive girl or a girl in general, just in general, they fucking pretty much barking. There's either giving each other signs, this and that. You know what I mean? Saying. So when it comes to the military stuff, like maybe it'll probably be smarter to kind of like separate them, not have them so close in the barracks.
For sure.
I'm not too sure how that exactly how that goes, but it should be where they shouldn't have that kind of opportunity to.
No, you're totally right.
You know what I mean?
We have to protect the women.
Yeah, because you do have like think about it, you have these alpha males who are pretty much willing to kill, right? Like that's what they're there for. They know what they're there for. A lot of these dudes thrive on that shit. Like that's what they're. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm fucking here gung ho in this shit. Yeah. Like this is what I'm doing, and then you mix it with other girls and egos and jealousy comes around. Wasn't it based more on jealousy? This dude over here. What was that? I haven't really read too much.
I've heard so much conflicting stuff. More so that he was sexually harassing her, and I think the details are sketchy. I know he was sexually harassing. I'm not sure if he ever like touched her inappropriately, but she had said to him, "I'm going to be reporting you." And then supposedly it was like that fear of being reported is what triggered it. They didn't have it wasn't her man. It wasn't some love triangle. It was just like he was being out of pocket, and she called him on it, and she was going to take it to the next level. Yeah, and before you knew it, she went missing.
Yeah. See, that's all bad.
All bad.
Yeah, see, because that's why I mean, I was just more maybe that should just be separated. Like, I mean,
you're right, and it kind of makes you wonder too. Like, and that's kind of what a lot of us coming up with that story is that not only about justice for Vanessa, but it's like leading people to because she was 20 years old and was like, I remember in high school they had Army recruiters on the campus, and if you want to go in the Army, it's all good. There are people, men and women, that it's their dream. They're always interested in like being involved, which is thank you for your service, but it's kind of like why are we? And it's often on not always, but it's often on like low income schools, or they're often targeting like Black and Latinx like students. Oh, you should like come be in the service. So it leads to a lot of things.
Better opportunity.
It's everything that you just said, coupled with like how are you kind of like vetting candidates. So again, we're not protecting all women, but particularly the way that they're kind of going after Black and Latinx women to join the armed services. You are aware there's an issue, and y'all are not protecting them. So it's like, it's all of what you said. Kind of like you have these guys, they are like doing too much and no one is like holding them accountable. Yeah. And then the military knows that, you know, the guys are behaving this way and they're not protecting the women. So there's like a lot of components to it.
Yeah, because and then you get the other side of it, right? Because the other side would be like, well, fuck, how else do you want to have like the best army? You got to have these these crazy fucks. Like you got to have, you know what I mean? Like, you got to have these savages to be like, fucking, I don't care.
I don't even know if that's like savages. You know how like the Me Too movement is like a whole thing. And so it's like
I don't mean savages by doing this.
No, but like we're having more conversations about like sexual harassment, about rape, about kind of like patriarchy, the way it like functions. So I saw this like meme the other day that one of my homegirls had posted on Facebook, and it was like every woman knows a woman that's been raped, which is real, but no man knows like a rapist. And I was like, oh my God, like that's how I thought about that. And I was like, that's hell true.
That's true. I don't know, or at least I don't think I know a rapist.
Exactly. So it kind of goes to, we're having these like kind of think tank conversations where people, especially in Hollywood, are being held accountable for sexual assault, for sexual abuse, for like rape. Women are feeling more scared, but feeling more like comfortable to come forward with like the Me Too movement. Has been around, actually created by a Black woman, co-opted by white Hollywood, kind of a separate issue, but it is.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It is growing. Tarana Burke actually created it a long time ago, and she's a Black woman that's been working with particularly Black and brown female youth that are survivors for many years, and it kind of got like co-opted, which is an issue, but she's still out here like doing the work. So it's like we do have to have conversations like, yeah, like why is it that it's acceptable in the military for guys to be like doing too much? Yeah, you're always going to find a woman attractive. That's cool. But there's thinking she's attractive, being sexually attracted, and then the kind of like the violence, or like you said, the barking, like that's not cool.
Because I'll be real, so that's what I'm saying. So like say you get the military, right? Like so you get, it's more opportunistic. Like so, like say rapists, they're more like opportunists, right? They get opportunity, they'll go for it, right? Like, exactly. So what I'm saying over here, like in the factory, right? In the factory atmosphere, there is no opportunity to even do the rape. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know, like maybe from the barking leads into the rape kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you don't when it comes to that kind of aspect, you don't know. But it just trips me out that you would have all this kind of like testosterone to do everything, and then you still kind of implement them, and you kind of expect them to get along.
Right.
Like when I've seen it personally, like when you fucking do it, people, they don't react right. I've seen little people crash their bikes, like in work, fucking just looking at a girl, like, like crash bikes, and it doesn't work. But it
But I
doesn't.
see what you're saying. You're saying like you're aware that there is that like human nature of like attraction. So it's like what's going to be put in place to like keep women safe. Because I remember like when I think most of the Hooters out here like closed. I've never been, but I just remember like I knew girls who like worked there, and so of course you get like the ogling, but there was also like a lot of security around. So I'm sure that there are women that probably have like very negative stories to tell about working there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've
yeah.
also known women that had positive stories
Yeah.
to tell about working
Yeah, yeah.
there.
Well, like
As
a
far
strip
as-
club, the same thing. Like they have the bouncers. They
Yeah,
have,
so it's like it is. Granted, it's a situation where you know you're gonna go look at like pretty girls, but it's like they're aware that they have pretty girls that are vulnerable. So it's like they had like fuckloads of security there.
yeah. There's protocols. There's something there.
Yeah,
to,
so it's like again, kind of like getting fired from Starbucks versus like accountability for cops. How come a place like Hooters or a strip club could
could
have
do all these kind of
accountability
measures.
for
Yeah.
women, and it's like something that you don't need to live, but something like the armed services? Why is there maybe possibly better security at a Hooters or a strip club or somewhere more
Something,
sexy like
or
that?
a better way to report shit, or a better way to
Yeah.
There's more ways to
Ensuring
get
that
away.
the ladies are kept safe, because it's true. Any of those places have very strict security. Like the women are being watched. If you're acting out,
if
you're
a guy,
done.
I don't
You're
like how he's
out.
looking at me. They'll come. They'll
You're-
kick
yeah.
your ass out and shit. Hey,
You're
we need to
gone.
get out.
But then it's like,
yeah.
how is that happening at like a strip club or a gentleman's club or anything like that for kind of like entertainment? But then in the armed services where you're risking your life for our country, they're not protecting you, and that's like some deep shit. Like you're more protected as like an exotic dancer than you are in the armed services, and like that's some wild shit. Like
it is. That's what I'm saying. It's a broken
right?
system. It's
Exactly.
more of a broken to fix the system. That's the main goal at the end of the day. That would be
because we're seeing it like everywhere.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Like every facet, and it's all coming out now because people are home.
And the health system,
people are pissed off.
The government based, the system is the health system.
Right.
You see it fell because of COVID. You see our justice system fell because of George Floyd. You see our military system because of Vanessa. Like the system's fucked. Like
and people, since I think because people are home and there's not really nowhere to like go. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are still working.
There's no
like
distraction,
yourself.
bigger distraction.
Yeah, so it's kind of like
focused.
you're like dealing with it, and it's also the election year, and like yes, Trump didn't create COVID, but of course his response for our country was a hot ass mess, and people are suffering because of that. So they're like, I think like the spidey senses towards voting and politics and the broken system, which again, it's not. He didn't create it, but he certainly contributed.
He's showing it. He's flaunting it,
exposing it, and making it worse.
Well, before, that's the thing where before the other presidents were good at hiding that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think even that's why even the Republican Party at first didn't like Trump, because I think they all do the same. Conspiracy theory, like Obama was doing the same laws, and
for sure.
Bush, all of them were doing the same shit. It's just it's just that Trump is loud about his shit.
Right.
He doesn't hide it. So I think that's where they don't like him, because he's showing the flaws. He's showing where exactly, like, look, this system's fucked. This system. Where other presidents like, oh no, everything's okay. Everybody calm down.
Right.
You know.
Even George W. Bush, who I was not a fan of, kind of had like an article came out, and there was a lot of things he did that were all bad. That have contributed to things that we're seeing now.
To this day,
it's sequential, but to his credit, like an article that came out a couple months ago about a pandemic team that he had put in place. I don't recall the year and if it was his first term or second term. But he actually had taken pandemic like seriously. Granted, he royally fucked Katrina. That was a separate issue. But like he did kind of like put a pandemic team in place that Trump did totally like disassemble.
So either way, you could basically, that system was messed up since Bush.
Exactly.
Bush just noticed that, hey, this is bad. Like, so.
He actually took a stance. I'll give him 1 point for that.
But no one fixed it. That's what, after that, no one fixed it.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, that they're all in the same team. They're all like, little by little. That's the conspiracy side of it. But
it doesn't make sense. It's like, as much as I hate Trump, it's like a lot of things that we're seeing. It's not. There's like kids in cages. That's all your fault. Like there's no.
See, but that was also in the Obama era.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of things that are not his fault, like a broken system. But there's certainly components of it that
he's making even worse.
Did Obama do amazing things for immigration? No. But did he put brown kids in cages? No. You know what I mean? So it's like.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so
but I get what you mean. The guy before, it's connected.
The guy before makes it easier for the guy next to do whatever he's doing. So whatever Trump's doing, the worst, right? Exactly. Because he's able to do it, and the next time I do the worst more than this guy. He's like
building off of what other people do.
Yeah, this is just it's dominoes.
Don't
get me wrong. This guy, I hope he goes down. I'm hoping Biden, his VPs,
strong.
Yeah, because I think Biden might get dementia sometime. I don't know, because
The only thing
he
I feel with
forgets.
Biden is like he's so problematic and a rapist, but it's like if he gets a strong VP, and I think because he is a career politician,
That's
that
probably
like
why people like him too.
probably, but like because he's a career politician, in some ways, I feel like if we could get him in office, will he do everything we want? Fuck no,
No,
of course not, of course not. But I think he also would be more like how Trump doesn't listen to anyone, like at all.
he'll be more willing.
I think Biden would be more willing to listen to
Yeah.
like his constituents. Doesn't mean it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fixing to do. But
The only thing I say about that is that I would say that he doesn't, even with that, he doesn't carry much power. Because even if you look at Trump, right?
Of course.
Trump promised a bunch of shit. He didn't get the
Yeah.
DACA. He didn't get DACA taken away.
Thank God, because of the
He
Supreme Court.
No, yes, because our founding fathers had a good checks and balances, right?
Yes.
Like, you want to become a king, you can't become a king because
Exactly.
we have checks and balances in Congress, and we have everything.
Exactly.
So he promised for 4 years we're gonna do this, and then nope, we got shut down. And then he promised he's somewhat getting the border wall up, but he's getting walls to where like he's kind of refixing walls.
Right.
They're already kind of there already, and then they're not even working at that.
Right.
they're like cutting through them and shit. But
at least he didn't build that like mega barbed wire demonic shit he was like talking about.
Yeah,
like,
but for the same reason you can't,
right.
like, because you have the checks and balance. Yeah, I don't know what, but it doesn't make sense either way because like that's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense. Like they're all working for the same team. Because if I was in the Trump team, I'd be like, fuck the wall. The wall's not gonna work. Let's invest it in drones. Let's get let's get actual things that would stop actual trafficking of drugs, trafficking of humans,
right?
Or anything, right? Stuff that actually, wall's not going to do nothing. Like they're it's
just symbolic of like the racism.
Yeah,
as opposed to actually fixing any like real problems that could be happening.
Yeah, because I've heard where coyotes they'll talk about it. They go, yeah, the wall just made business better because you give the illusion that it's harder to get through. Now we charge double. And we fly you in, like,
damn.
Like what we go through Canada, we come down from the top. Like, there's no difference. You're just making business better for us. So there's really, there's no real like, oh yeah, we're stopping you. And they say it too, like, yeah, business is booming. Like we charge you double now for the same route that we've been going for 20 years. We're gonna charge you double, just because there's an illusion. So it turns in, and it goes into the drugs. The drugs go more expensive because it's an illusion. It's I don't know. It's a scam. I think at the end of the day.
It's gonna be wild to see. I hope that people stay like vigilant
with it. Yeah, that's my thing. I hope you have this attitude all the whole way through.
Because even like on say the Black Lives Matter, like abolish ICE and like things I'm pro. It was like because August Alsina did that interview with Angela Yee. He supposedly it got connected to Jada Smith and Will Smith, the whole shit. I don't give a fuck about. I like all of them, but I'm a fan of all their work. I don't give a fuck about their personal life. But now I see so much like social media talking about memes about August, memes about entanglement, the whole shit.
And that's when it goes away, see? But
now, and it's like, no, we have to be like vigilant. Like we need justice for Vanessa, and we still need like
justice for Breonna Taylor. Give it 2 weeks, and you get another celebrity.
And what did they do? They had a little like a show with like them talking about.
Oh yeah, see?
Yeah, they did like they had like their little what's it called, red table talk or whatever. But then it's just wild how quickly people's consciousness move. So it kind of makes me feel afraid. Like I would say from like Memorial Day weekend to like before the 4th of July, I felt the vigilance as far as like BLM and like fuck Trump and black and brown unity. We still got to get the kids out of cages and seeing people have that interconnectedness. Now all these memes about an entanglement and Will and Jade and August, I don't give a fuck. Like we still need to solve the issue. So that like scares me.
That's
like
a new Popeyes.
I get people want to break because they're bored, they're tired. So I kind of get it's like entertaining or whatever, but I was like, be entertained and still,
still have that movement with you.
Still have the movement. So that always kind of like scares me how quick people not everyone, the people that are true to it are going to stay true to it, but it's like we need the masses to keep rocking with it.
The masses is what makes it move though.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's what really makes it move.
And that's the part that scares me.
And that's the part that forgets quick. Amnesia. We're living in an amnesia culture where it's give it to me now. What is it? What's in front of me?
Like, what do you mean the election's a few months from now and I gotta keep giving a fuck about BLM and kids in cages and fuck Trump? I care about entanglement. Like, but I need you. Like, you can be entertained by that, but still like keep the focus and people just like kind of leave it to the wayside and it stops trending. And again, the clout chasing, like, why is it gotta be like trending? Why are we not consistently like giving a fuck like across the spectrum about any number of it's not gonna be all the issues.
There's so much shit
pick one issue.
Yeah, see,
that was a whole. that's trending like a motherfucker right now because people need to be entertained. Like,
but like do this, like sit down and talk about like real issues about this.
Yeah, do same thing. Just yeah.
Like,
And this is the reason why I started this. Right?
that's awesome.
It's for that to like I've never met. I probably would have never seen you outside of this or anything like that. The perspective. My thing is, I've always wanted to have to know a little bit about everything. Right? So like that's why I wanted to bring in different perspectives of life, walks of life, the way you're out in the community. Now I kind of get a feel of what that side of what's thinking, of what, you know what I mean? And it's surprisingly a lot more common than I would think that I've had, with my own personal views and thoughts. Like you can even ask this guy, I'm more of a conservative, independent thinker. I'm liberal when it comes to social stuff.
For sure.
You know what I mean? More conservative with personal stuff. But I think it's fascinating to be able to talk to people like that and still have a mutual respect for one another, not to be able to be like, well, fuck that, I can't.
Actually have a conversation so that in the future, like you work with like homelessness and I'll be like a homeless activist. So it's like maybe we have different experiences and different views, but since we're not arguing, we have a mature conversation and understand the other person's point. Cool. Then when it comes down to maybe like something comes up on the ballot for the state or for the federal level or for the city level, you and me can meet up again and be like, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? How can we get people to like vote for or against this?
Get your side, my side,
we're willing to like have a conversation and be like, oh, we don't fully agree, but it doesn't mean like, oh, fuck you, like you suck at life. It's like, no, we just feel a little different, but we can have a mature conversation and be cool.
Yeah, you make gray out of black and white.
Yeah, because people be so like, I hate the cancel culture shit. You know what I mean?
I can't. Yeah,
it's like there are certain levels I get when certain people are super against your humanity. That's one thing. Yeah, but people take it further than that. Be like, I don't like that one thing you said, so fuck you. And it's like, but what about all the other things you said that were good? Or what if what you said is out of misinformation? Or what if it's cultural? Or what if it's just something that you're gonna have to not agree on?
Or you just learned later on there's not there, or just you change. People's thoughts change, but you're gonna hold them to that one word or that one time, and
that they were misinformed.
And half the time, the people that are holding you against, they're like, "You're not the cleanest person I know to be talking." You know what I mean? Like, so you can't, don't throw rocks if you live in a glass house.
Right?
Like, there's no.
We got to move away from like the toxic stuff. So no, I love that you have this platform. So it's like have people talk and like. What do you know? What don't you know? Like, what do we disagree on? Let's actually like talk about it. And even if you don't agree with someone, if you get like where they come from, even if you're not going to change your mind, at least you have an awareness of like why they feel how they feel, maybe how they came to that through like experience or what their job is or where they come from, and be like, cool, like maybe I'm still going to do this, but like I appreciate the knowingness.
You judge it different. Even if you're judging it different now.
Exactly.
Like you have a different thought. There's a different
like face to it, or a different like
that's what it is. A different face. You have now you have a different face to it.
Exactly.
There's something there that I used to like it. I used to didn't like it.
Right.
And now I do, or now I don't.
Right.
I totally agree.
As opposed to just be like, fuck that, and da-da-da, and it's like that. We got to get away. If we really want to see anything change on any number of the issues we talked about or could talk about, we have to have more of like, I think, more of a patience and a willingness. It doesn't mean that you pacify like racist people or pacify ignorant people, but it's like when you have people that just are not totally with your shit, like have an actual conversation.
Willing to talk. Yeah, because I think most people, when talking or having a conversation, I think people, they're not listening. They're more waiting to talk.
They want to respond.
Yeah, so
like, I didn't like when you did that one thing, as opposed to like, hey, can you clarify for me, or can I ask you a follow-up question, or whatever.
Like, so that's what I'm trying to do with this, and trying to get people to come out and kind of express their thought.
That's awesome.
To have it like that. But with that being said, thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Actually, before we end this, let the people know where they could find you, or what they could do. What's the next event, or if you have anything popping off, of any community stuff. I know you're really involved.
Do my best. So Instagram is hellafamous11. My website is hellafamous.com. I'm not really doing like Zoom events right now. My big thing is just trying to make like voter education. So I've been posting a lot on all my social media platforms about what's coming up on the ballot, trying to help people understand what they're voting for, if they vote
Let them know what to vote for.
Against. So big things that are coming up on the California ballot is restoring affirmative action. It's Prop 16. I hope that you vote yes to restore it. Proposition, I believe is actually, let me look at my phone. I had notes, so I couldn't remember. So I was like, I want to get it right, because there was several. I feel like if people don't want to vote for president, I respect it, but a couple props that are really important is Prop 15, which would change property taxes, not of like your house, but of like industrial buildings, to help change how schools are funded. So it invests more money in K through 12 education. That's Prop 15. Prop 16, voting yes, would restore affirmative action. Prop 17 is another one that's really important to me, is restoring the voting rights for people on parole. So right now, it's like if you have a case, you can't vote. And that disproportionately affects low-income people, especially Black and brown men who can't vote.
But if you're on parole, okay. So I see. I'll be more on the board of like, say, if you did your time already. Well, I guess parole.
Well, yeah. So when you get out of jail or prison and you're on parole, you've done your time. But it means like that they're still watching. You still got to check in with like your parole officer, and if you fuck up, you're gonna go back in like off tops.
Because I know if you commit a federal offense, if you have a felony, you can't vote no more.
Exactly.
In general.
But that's what I'm saying. So basically,
which I think that should be changed.
Well, this is exactly what that would change.
Okay, then I'm with that then.
Is like giving people on parole like the right to vote. So like, let's say you got out of prison for whatever, you were selling cocaine, you did whatever, you had a felony DUI. Okay, you did your time. Cool. So
that's my thing. Once you do your time,
as opposed to like coming out and being on parole for the next like 2 to 7 years, depending on how hard they like want to watch you, it would let you vote again.
Yeah,
and right now, it's like if you age off, you can vote, but recidivism tends to be so high in California because it's a prison state. You have so many people, particularly Black and brown men, that can't like ever vote again. So that would
that's I'm totally with the felonies. Once you do your time, you're able to vote.
You want a clean slate, start over.
Even if it doesn't show up on your record, I'm even down with that. Once you do your time, you've done your time. You've been punished already, so why be punished again even after?
Exactly.
I think that would stop a lot of the other shit. Yeah.
But then the thing that's going to be scary to me is Prop 20, because Prop 20 wants to make harsher sentences for crimes. So it's kind of scary to me that on one hand, we're saying we potentially as a state can choose to restore voting rights for people on parole, but we can also overly criminalize people and give out more felonies for lower offenses.
Was that 20?
Prop 20. And so I'm kind of scared that they're both on the ballot because on one hand, we're kind of trying to like decriminalize people. But then on the other hand,
still
a few ballot measures down.
That's like a double-edged sword.
We're trying to overly criminalize people. So it's like if you get hella criminalized, what you gonna have? More parole, less voting rights. So that shit is wild. And then in closing, the last one is Prop 18, which would give 17-year-olds the right to vote in the primary if they turn 18 by the election.
Okay.
And so I'm for that shit because it has been mostly teenagers who started the protests all over the country in the wake of George Floyd and a lot of these like free kids from cages, abolish ICE. It's been so many teenagers that have been like leading this like rebellion. So I think that I want to hear teenagers voting. It's been people old enough have been royally fucking it up for how long? Let's let the kids vote.
Yeah.
Like we need them. Or young adults.
Get some youngins in there. Yeah, get some youngins. But that's what you want. You want the younger crowd, the youth. You want the youth to be involved. Let them get involved
because they want to be.
You want them.
So why are we telling them no if they want to vote?
Yeah, especially because I wasn't involved in that shit. So if they want to be involved at that age, albeit.
Exactly. So those are all in the state of California. So those are things I've been trying to make like videos about on social media to like deep dive on the issues, because people, like a lot of people didn't know what affirmative action was or that it was gone in the state. So having a couple of different, videos available on that. So even if people don't agree with me, I hope that they'll, vote how I feel. But even if they vote against, at least they understand like what's
going on. Yeah. Even if you do it now, you know it. You're
exactly. You have a formed opinion about it.
Yeah.
Even if it's against how I feel.
Yeah. You're not just winging that shit. Exactly. No, definitely. Well, shit. Great to have you on, man.
Thank you.
Shit.
I appreciate it.
We're going to do this again, definitely.
Yeah,
maybe when it passes through, we'll see all this stuff. And hopefully this pandemic gets through, too.
I know. We'll see. We'll find out. We're living it every day. It's a little different.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It was a blast. It was a blast.
It was a good time. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no worries.